Hello everyone and welcome to Atlanta International Raceway. As the strains of the national anthem play behind us, it's a perfect day for auto racing here just south of Atlanta. 70 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. Everything is up to speed, including 40 of the finest Winston Cup Grand National stock car drivers in the world. We're proud to be here for ESPN to present this race live, a first for Auto Racing 81 and ESPN. I'm Mike Joy to cover the action along with Larry Newber. The story of this race, as it's been all year long, has been a story of the battle for the national driving title, the Winston Cup Points Championship.
Mike, it really has. It's been all Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip. Allison asserted himself earlier in the year when he won the opener at Riverside. He also came back with a second-place finish in Daytona in February. He had really taken a commanding lead at that point. Waltrip had won a lot of money, but he was mired in 18th place in the point standings through the February speed weeks. Allison's lead was at its zenith as we moved into June following the Budweiser 400 in Texas, but Darrell had closed to third place and was beginning to gather steam. Now, by September and the Wrangler 400, Bobby Allison had headed the points parade for about 8 months, but Waltrip was stringing together 7 top threes in a row and had made the points, well, a virtual tie. Now, by late September, Waltrip had eclipsed Allison and taken the points lead. And when he won at Charlotte, his lead had already grown to about 58 points. Now we move to today, and the Junior Johnson team brings a 68 points lead into the Atlanta race, and Waltrip has won 4 times in a row, and more importantly, Mike, 12 top 3 finishes also in succession.
40 drivers right now are on pit road, cinching up their seatbelts, strapping on their helmets, and getting ready to go racing. Covering pit road for ESPN today will be NASCAR's 6th all-time Grand National race winner, a member of the National Motorsports Hall of Fame, Ned Jarrett.
Well, thank you very much, Mike Joy, and good afternoon, everyone. It is a beautiful day for racing here. Everyone getting buckled into their cars, ready to go. We're standing beside Darrell Waltrip, who leads the point standings going into this. Nervous going in here.
You're darn right I'm nervous.
It's a tough day for you.
It's a big race for us, Ned, and I just hope things continue to go reasonably as well as they have the last 10 or 12 weeks. If they do, I feel very comfortable with the outcome.
Well, when he talks about the last 10 or 12 weeks, he's won 7 of the last 12 races, finished second in 4 of those and third in the other. Absolutely incredible. Mike, it's going to be a great day here.
You're looking at 40 of the finest stock car racers in the world, and standing at the head of that lineup is Ned Jarrett.
So Ford II will give the command.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
He's the Grand Marshal here today for the Atlanta Journal 500.
So 40 stock cars, perhaps 20,000 assembled horsepower roar to life here at Atlanta International Raceway. The pit road is being cleared of mechanics, crew chiefs, car owners, and well-wishers. In just a moment, they'll roll off to begin this 500-mile journey. And what a race it's expected to be with Harry Gant on the pole. Again, he's won several poles this year. He has never won in Winston Cup competition despite 7 runner-up finishes this year, 10 in his 2-year Grand National career. Alongside, you've met Darrell Waltrip, the Grand National point leader, driving for Junior Johnson and the Mountain Dew team. In row number 2, with 195 career victories, the sport's all-time winner, the king of stock car racing, Richard Petty with the STP Buick. And a local boy from Dahlonega, Florida. That's Bill Elliott riding the Melling Tool car. It's a Ford, the highest placed non-General Motors car in this field. Back at row number 3, Neil Bonnet is also in a Ford, the Wood Brothers Ford. He has the world's fastest pit crew in his corner. And alongside, hometown neighbor and old adversary Bobby Allison driving the Hardee's Buick. In row number 4, NASCAR's late model sportsman national champion Tommy Ellis in the Industrial Boilers Chevrolet, and Joe Ruttman driving for the Jim Stacy team in the number 2 automobile, Joe out of California. In the 5th row, the defending Winston Cup champion driving the Wrangler jeans machine for Richard Childress, that is Dale Earnhardt. And alongside the brash young upstart of modified and sportsman racing, Jeff Bodine out of Pleasant Garden, North Carolina, the Emmanuel Zervakis car. In row number 6, the Melling Tool Ford Thunderbird number 15, Benny Parsons from Ellerby, North Carolina. Terry Labonte, the 1980 Southern 500 winner, will be driving Billy Hagan's Stratograph Buick, the J.D. Stacy automobile, number 44. In row number 7, going 13th, Buddy Baker, the hard-charging, foot-to-the-floor driver from Charlotte, North Carolina, the Haas Ellington Uno Buick. And Ricky Rudd, 24 years old and certainly a comer in this sport. He is in the Gardner's Die-Guard Gatorade machine, number 88. In the 8th row, the Cliff Stewart Performance Collection Pontiac for Joe Milliken of Randleman, North Carolina, a protege of Richard Petty. And one of several Rookie of the Year candidates, Tim Richmond of Ashland, Ohio, will start the Bob Rogers Auto Leasing car number 37. In the 9th row, Gary Ballou, the hardest charger of the Florida short tracks, has gone Grand National Racing in the Raymond entry. Car number 75, Ballou, to start inside the 9th row. Next to Lake Speed from Jackson, Mississippi, the former world go-kart champion. Speed in the Ron Steele Craft Stoves Buick. In the 10th row, Kyle Petty, the son of the king of stock car racing, in his STP Buick out of Randall, North Carolina, number 42. The rookie point leader is Morgan Shepherd of Conover, North Carolina, with the Levi Garrett Buick starting in 20th position. Going 21st, Cale Yarborough, the defending champion of the Atlanta Journal 500, racing the Valvoline Buick for MC Anderson out of Timmonsville, South Carolina. And independent driver Dave Marcus in car number 71, the Richard and Leo Jackson entry. That's another Jim Stacy Buick. In the 12th row, the rookie upstart that beat everybody at Talladega by mere inches. That yellow car right side of your screen is Ron Bouchard, the Yankee on the circuit from Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Starting next to Bouchard, J.D. Slick Johnson Jr. out of Florence, South Carolina, in the James Hilton car number 48, the Palatine Auto Parts Pontiac. In row number 13, last year's champion Sparkplug Rookie of the Year, the number 90, the Truxmore Junie Donlevy Sunny King Ford, Jody Ridley of Chatsworth, Georgia. Chuck Bound, the West Coast driver, now making his home in Charlotte, North Carolina, has the Rose Auto Wrecking Buick in 26th position. 27th, former Indy 500 winner, Lone Star JR, Johnny Rutherford of Fort Worth, Texas, Levi Garrett Buick. Dick Brooks from Spartanburg, South Carolina, making a comeback after a crash this May in Charlotte in the World 600 in the Carolina Tool and Equipment Ford. In the 15th row, Texas driver H.B. Bailey from Houston, the Almeida Auto Parts Pontiac, and D.K. Ulrich of Harrisburg, North Carolina, the Ulrich Racing Buick. In the 16th row, the fastest of yesterday's qualifiers, Rusty Wallace of Valley Park, Missouri, the Kangaroos Buick, next to Rick Wilson, another rookie driver from Bartow, Florida, the Florida Equipment and Service Oldsmobile. In row 17, Connie Saylor from Tennessee, who took that wild flip at Daytona, and Buddy Arrington, the Virginia driver. In the 18th row, Tommy Gale, a part-time driver from Pennsylvania, and Jimmy Smut-Means from Huntsville, Alabama. In the 18th row, J.D. McDuffie, the Bailey Excavating Pontiac, and the Ring Enterprises Chevrolet for Travis Diller. And in the 20th and final row, Massillon, Ohio driver John Anderson, the King's Inn of Daytona Buick, and Del McCoward of Savannah, Georgia, the Coastal Transmission Buick. That's the 40-car starting field, and starting smack dab in the middle, Cale Yarborough, the defending champ.
Mike, not only the defending champ, but also the guy who won here earlier in the year. There's Cale in that black and white Valvoline-sponsored number 27 machine. Cale, of course, is the third all-time leading winning driver with 71 career wins in NASCAR competition for career drivers. And Mike, we've had one driver alteration, so to speak. In the number 48 car, James Hilton, the owner of the car, will be starting the car. Slick Johnson will get in after a lap.
Hilton will start his 29th race here at the Atlanta International Raceway. How about it, Cale Yarborough? Is it a disadvantage being way that far back, 21st in this 40-car field?
Well, I don't think it will, Ned. You know, the spring race here, we qualified 22nd and won the race. So where you start doesn't make any difference. It's where you finish is what counts.
Yarborough starting 21st is the all-time feature winner at the Atlanta International Raceway. Through 29 of 31 races, Waltrip the point leader. $526,000 in earnings as the field rumbles around this 1.5-mile super speedway. 5-degree banking in the straightaways and 24 in the turns. As we watch the front row, Harry Gann on the inside. Car number 33, a car owned by Burt Reynolds and Hollywood stuntman and director Hal Needham of Smokey and the Bandit fame. On the outside, the point leader, Darrell Waltrip. Ernie Moore, the NASCAR flagman at trackside, and Harold Kinder, high atop the starter stand, have given the command that we'll go racing in one lap. Next time by, they're in the backstretch for the last time at this speed.
Mike, a couple of seconds ago, we saw the graphic about the 24-degree banking in the turns here, and Waltrip pulls up alongside of the pace car, perhaps indicate maybe he's not real happy with the pacing speed, Mike Joy.
Well, I believe he'd like that pace car out of the way. Waltrip up high, now drifts back a bit. Harry Gant settling in. We're looking at Cale Yarborough in 21st position, way back in the 11th row. Those
24-degree bank turns, that's not the only story about the turns at this racetrack. The turns consume a higher percentage of the total racing surface here at Atlanta than most tracks on the circuit. The drivers are in the turns more here at Atlanta than most of their other racetracks. Look at how steep the banking is as the cars rumble through turns 3 and 4. Pace car still high on the racetrack. Watching now, it makes the sharp dive to the left and heads down the pit road.
40 rambling, rumbling Grand National stock cars straighten out of turn number 4. Harold Kinder holding them down, slowing them, keeping them low, and now the green flag is out, and the Atlanta Journal 500 is
trouble
underway.
already in the front stretch before we make the start-finish line, Mike Joy. H.B. Bailey in car number 36, one of the Texas drivers, got caught in heavy traffic in the middle of the pack and looped coming down the front stretch.
Bailey scrambled with D.K. Ulrich in car number 99, and likewise the number 72 machine of Rusty Wallace of Valley Park, Missouri. Back in the pack, watch the right side of your screen.
You can see the traffic 2, 3, and 4 abreast as everybody jockeys. 2 or 3 cars come together, and Bailey, the one who does about a 270-degree spin. The rest of the field now roars around the racetrack, racing back to the caution.
Waltrip will lead the first lap of the Atlanta Journal 500 as we go under caution, but that itself is important. Each NASCAR Winston Cup race pays 175 championship points to the winner. However, there is a 5-point bonus for every driver that leads a lap in the race. Waltrip, by leading the first lap, gets that chore out of the way, so he's picked up the 5 bonus points. That gives him an important edge over Bobby Allison in just the first lap of the race.
And Mike, let's set up this points battle between Waltrip and Allison. If Waltrip can outpoint Bobby Allison by 118 points today, then Waltrip could clinch the season's championship. There you see the difference, 68 points to this point in the season. A maximum of 185 points are available to Bobby Allison in the final race, the next race out on the West Coast. So if Allison falls more than 118 points behind Waltrip in today's competition, Darrell would clinch the championship. And put that in simpler terms, Waltrip would just about have to finish in the first 2 positions and Bobby in the last 2, and that's not likely to happen.
Those are the only 2 drivers with a mathematical chance at the title. You saw Harry Gant in 3rd position. His spot is in doubt as Ricky Rudd, the 4th place driver, is very close in the point parade. For Rusty Wallace, his trip to AIR, not a particularly happy one on the first lap. Look at the dented front end of Rusty Wallace's car after just 1 lap of racing. Let's go to Ned Jarrett on pit road.
This is H.B. Bailey's car number 36. They're literally ripping the bumper off the car, Mike, and trying to tear away any sheet metal that might get against the tire. It doesn't look like there's any other damage done to the car other than sheet metal. Bailey, of course, sitting in the car with him running. The NASCAR officials are there looking over the work that is being done. So the car isn't going to look quite as neat as it did just a few moments ago, but maybe he will be able to continue in the race.
On that first lap, the field broke just about the way they qualified. Waltrip from the outside pole assumed the lead. Harry Gant rides 2nd. Richard Petty is 3rd. 4th is Neil Bonnet. 5th is Bill Elliott. In the 6th spot, the Jim Stacy car of Joe Ruttman. Bobby Allison runs along now in the 7th position as we're under caution at Atlanta in the early laps. Jeff Bodine has moved up to the 8th spot. In 9th position is Ricky Rudd. 10th, the National Sportsman Champion. That'll be Tommy Ellis. We're under caution. A look down at trackside for Harold Kinder to see if they indeed give the indication that the track is clear, and will look to go back to racing next time by. Kinder gives them the down finger restart indication. That's the index finger pointed down, and that means we'll be restarting single file with all cars on the lead lap. Later on in this race, as cars begin to be put a lap or more down by the leader, on restarts, the lap cars will drop to the inside of the racetrack with the cars on the lead lap up top.
Well, that driver change that we anticipated in the James Hilton number 48 race car apparently has taken place. The car has been in the pits during this early caution flag. As we commented, the man who qualified it, Slick Johnson, was supposed to jump into the car after James started the race and accumulated a few of those points, and he's accumulated quite a lot of those in his career in NASCAR racing, Mike Joy.
NASCAR championship points go to the driver who starts the race. Waltrip's the leader. He started on the outside pole, and he is the point leader. Harry Gant is the pole sitter. He starts 2nd. Interestingly enough, Gant has never won on the circuit, and the odds are against him today statistically. Only once in the 21-year history of this event has the raceman won from the pole position. 3rd and to the right side of your screen is Richard Petty with 195 career victories, the sport's all-time winner. On pit road, work continues on the H.B. Bailey and D.K. Ulrich cars. They won't be around for the restart. As the pace car goes on to pit road, and as they come off turn 4, they'll be looking for the green flag. Quickly, let's go back to Ned on pit road.
There's a development in Darrell Waltrip's pits. He has a cracked windshield on the car number 11, but they think that he can run okay. Hopefully another caution that they will be able to take it up. The green flag's waiting.
We're back under green, single file the first 7 spots. Ricky Rudd moves up from the 8th position as they shuffle off to turn number 1. Waltrip holds the lead. He's a car length ahead of Harry Gant, and they got a good jump on Richard Petty. Petty 4 car lengths back as they work the draft in the back straightaway. Neil Bonnet locked onto Petty's bumper. Ron and Allison, meanwhile, contest about the 7th position. Here comes Gant. On the bottom of the racetrack, that's not the quick way by. As he shuffles back into the draft, Neil Bonnet has picked up the 3rd spot, having moved underneath Richard Petty and his Wood brothers, Warner Hodgson Ford. Waltrip in a Buick. Likewise, Harry Gant as they go back to turn number 1, completing the 5th lap.
And already the experimentation and the concentration begins in the minds of each of these drivers and also the crew chiefs on the radios. The setup for race day is probably quite similar to what they practiced at, particularly yesterday, but it's always different from day to day. Now we see the 2 leaders, Waltrip entering turn, and moving on the inside is Neil Bonnet as Bonnet moves up to challenge Harry Gant.
Neil Bonnet rambling with the Ford. This is a good racetrack for the Fords. They stay up in the power curve, and the Ford engine likes that because they keep the RPMs up all day, all the way around the track. Bonnet has gone to the 2nd spot. Behind leader Waltrip, Cale Yarborough midway in that Valvoline machine has worked past Kyle Petty, and he's now up into the top 20 positions after qualifying in 21st.
Now, though the setup is similar, things change from day to day, and already the drivers, now we have a lead change developing near the front of the pack as Bonnet moves alongside of Darrell Waltrip.
Neil Bonnet underneath, Darrell Waltrip for the lead. Muscles Waltrip high on the racetrack. Bonnet keeps it down low. He has the lead by inches, but Waltrip storms back at the line, and Richard Petty looks to make it 3 wide and thinks better of it. Slips back in the groove. Up in turn 1, Waltrip, high side, Bonnet on the bottom, asking no quarter and giving none. They continue to go tooth and nail for the lead, and in the backstretch, Waltrip coming off the high side of the corner has a bit of an edge, but watch Bonnet pull him down the straightaway.
There are the 2 people who have led more laps than any other duo on the circuit this year. Waltrip on the high side of the left side of the screen and Bonnet on the inside. Bonnet, his car has not finished a lot of races this year. It's been a frustrating season, but the team has remained together. They seem to be very happy with one another, and they continue to run up front. Bonnet says, I got the best car coming into Atlanta, and right now, Mike Joy, looks like he might be right.
Well, Waltrip is giving him a run for the money on the outside, and that's not always the easiest place to be to get around this racetrack. Here comes Richard Petty. He's going to cover the spot, bottom of the racetrack in car number 43. The fans go crazy as Petty comes underneath Waltrip. He'll get the 2nd spot going into turn number 3.
Sneaking into the battle for the first 5 positions, there's Cale Yarborough just getting around Lake Speed, now moving up on sportsman grad Tommy Ellis. We had just begun to comment that sneaking up on the battle for the lead is Joe Ruttman in a blue and yellow number 2. There's Ruttman in the J.D. Stacy car on the inside. He is just moving to the 3rd position behind those 2 leaders. Neil Bonnet at number 21, and guess who? The king, Richard Petty, back up front again.
Joe Ruttman, the former USTAC stock car champ in the J.D. Stacy number 2. Out of Upland, California, has moved into the 3rd position past Darrell Waltrip. So Bonnet, who is not running for the point championship with the Wood brothers this year, he's got the 5 bonus points for leading a lap. As we come around to complete 10 laps, 15 miles in the Atlanta Journal 500. Bonnet leads Richard Petty. Joe Ruttman is 2nd. Darrell Waltrip is 3rd. Harry Gant's Pontiac runs along in the 4th position, up out of turn number 2. Petty keeping close tabs on Bonnet. What a familiar picture this is. For many years, David Pearson drove the Wood brothers car, and he and Petty had many duos and battles just like this one that's beginning to unfold between Bonnet and the king. Turn number 3. Bonnet keeps it way low on the racetrack, right down next to the track apron. That's the short and the fastest way around.
To chronicle a couple of the other big stories here, Cale Yarborough, whom we expected to make a big move to the front, really hasn't shown us that explosion we anticipated. There he is. Right now he's running in 18th position, and he's still battling with Buddy Baker trying to move up to 17th.
Up front out of turn 2, it is Petty going for the lead. But look at the horsepower Neil Bonnet has down the straightaway. He did the same thing to Darrell Waltrip. He gained half a car length in the straightaway. But now it's Petty. It's right down next to the track apron. He has the preferred line. Joe Ruttman wisely comes underneath to cover the spot behind Petty. Now Ruttman moves up. He'll help Bonnet draft down the straightaway. And you see they pick up a car length there and almost touch going into the corner.
Very close call for Joe Ruttman. Remember, Joe is not as experienced on these super fast high banks, and in particular running on the banks as are Bonnet and Petty. And Ruttman was riding behind the 2 of them while they were running side by side, trying to make the decision, who do I follow, and try to propel myself into 2nd.
Just behind the leaders, Harry Gant has moved up into the 4th spot as Cale Yarborough, climbing his way up through the top 20, moves underneath the Buddy Baker automobile. Shortly, these cars will get into lap traffic. Cale now taking over the 17th position, working under Buddy Baker. Yarborough had to wait till the 2nd day to qualify, and Baker's giving him a fight. Back up front.
Back up front, Petty is still trying to accomplish something he has not done yet today, and that is pass Neil Bonnet. He gets a nice bite coming out of turn number 2, down on the bottom of the racetrack. But look, here's that horsepower of the Wood Brothers Ford picking up once again, and Bonnet slams the door for a 3rd time.
That was a door slam. He pinned Petty right behind Rusty Wallace. Ned?
Mike, we've been watching the car of Harry Gant. We talked with some of his crew members this morning. Said that car was not handling quite as well in the late practice yesterday as it did when he was qualifying. Said they might have to make some adjustments if they get another caution. One driver who didn't last too long here today was H.B. Bailey. They thought they'd be able to get the car repaired, but from Texas, H.B., that's a long way to not run in causing you did.
Well, I mean, I could probably run the car already just like it is, but no, I have nothing particular up there. They'd probably get some rocks in it and tear it up and burn the engine up.
Exactly what happened there?
Well, the whole line backed off in front of us, and Rutherford backed off in front of me, and I backed off, and I think, you know, this thing on the first lap, here come Rusty Wallace up and hit me in the back, knocked into Rutherford and very sideways.
Well, that was a very tough break. Sorry to see you out of it here.
There is the difference in the advantage. Neil Bonnet back to Richard Petty, keeping to a race it. Here goes Petty, and Richard Petty will lead going into turn number 3. Joe Ruttman still a 3rd place car. Bonnet, though, is not going to give it up. He stays on the high side. He's got a longer way to go around that corner than Petty, being on the outside, but being up high, Bonnet's engine will turn at a higher RPM off the corner, and look at the rocket effect for Bonnet coming down the straightaway. That helps him. Now, Joe Ruttman is drafting off Petty at the bottom of the racetrack. That will not help Neil Bonnet. As Ruttman looks for a groove, Harry Gant has come into the picture to make it a 4-car battle. And off the corner, onto the backstretch, Bonnet again shows the horsepower of the Wood Brothers Ford Thunderbird. Into the corner, Petty dives to the low side, Bonnet scoots away.
Mike, I think we really are getting an exhibition of the muscle in that Wood Brothers Ford. Bonnet has had everything going against him the last 3 or 4 laps. He's been on the high side of the racetrack, the longer way around. The last time down the front stretch, there was a 3-car draft hooked up on the inside of Bonnet. Usually that's enough, and boy, are they running close. That was the mold they had in mind, I think, when they made dimes. But so often in the last 5 or 6 laps, Bonnet looked like he was about ready to go behind Petty, but he tromps on the accelerator coming out of turns 2 and 4 and just blows Richard away.
The fans have not sat down since we went back under the green flag. Neil Bonnet has led 9 of the 17 laps. He's about to lead his 10th one. Here comes Petty battling back. And you're watching why NASCAR Winston Cup Racing is the most competitive auto racing in the world. You couldn't slide a piece of paper between those 2 cars as they come off the corner. Back to turn 1, and this battle for the lead rages on. When cars draft single file, they can pull away, but these cars running side by side are slower than 1 car or 2 cars single file. That has allowed the Pontiac of Harry Gant, the Buick of Joe Ruttman, and Darrell Waltrip to climb right back up into the battle for that lead. Here's Ruttman, the 3rd place car at turn number 3, just coming into view. He'll draft under Petty. That'll give Richard just a little bit of boost. Petty in 43, the red and blue STP Buick. Bonnet, the white, red, gold numeral number 21 of the Wood Brothers, and Joe Ruttman right behind them in the 3rd spot.
Mike, there are actually about 13 cars running up front within about the distance of 3 football fields. Among that group of cars is Bobby Allison, and there he is, running approximately 8th or 9th position on the grid right now. There's Bill Elliott, who qualified so well here. Dale Earnhardt in number 3, the points leader and champion from a year ago.
Earnhardt is the 10th place car behind Bill Elliott, running 9th, and a strong showing for Elliott. Earnhardt driving for veteran driver Richard Childress, now team manager, has taken the Wrangler sponsorship. Drifting, Earnhardt, you saw him get a little bit squirrely off that 4th corner, high up in the groove as we watch the battle back for 7th position on back. Allison goes to the bottom of the racetrack. Ricky Rudd takes advantage of him as he comes by. Bobby holds his position. In the backstretch, Richard Petty has assumed command of the Atlanta Journal 500. He's gone out ahead of the Neil Bonnet machine as they continue that battle. We're watching Allison in 28, the Hardee's Buick, contest Ricky Rudd. This will be for 7th position. Allison in the thick of the point chase with Darrell Waltrip. Must keep Waltrip in sights for a shot at what would be his first. national driving title.
Well, we went about 20 laps before we heard anything at all from Bobby Allison. That's somewhat of an interesting move. Perhaps Allison was just beginning to feel out the field and see what everybody else had. He realized he really was not in a position to challenge for the lead in those first 20 laps, and now it looks like he's decided it's time to start to make his drive toward the front.
The most important thing Allison can do is finish this race. That's the only way to pile up points. And as H.B. Bailey very dejectedly told Ned on pit road, you don't win this race on the first lap of 328 laps. Off the corner, Allison has now assumed the 7th position in his drive toward the Winston Cup point title. Ned Jarrett is standing by in Harry Gant's pit.
We mentioned earlier, Mike, that they were not completely pleased with the way that car number 33 was handling late yesterday in practice, but they said they made some adjustments on it this morning. Travis Carter, we're watching sort of pacing the pits here, said that it looked like it was working better than they anticipated because he's running right up there battling for the lead.
Coming around to complete lap 22, Richard Petty leads the Atlanta Journal 500. Neil Bonnet is right on his bumper. Joe Ruttman is 3rd. 4th is Harry Gant. In 5th is Darrell Waltrip. 6th, the modified sportsman ace, Jeff Bodine. In the 7th position is Bobby Allison. Riding 8th is Ricky Rudd. In 9th is Dale Earnhardt. 10th is Bill Elliott. Benny Parsons is 11th. Joe Milliken is in the 12th spot. Terry Labonte in the 13th position. 14th is the Tommy Ellis machine. And moving up, now in 17th and challenging Johnny Rutherford for a position, Dale Yarborough.
So the 2 leaders, Petty and Bonnet, who once again are side by side coming out of turn number 4, have actually opened up about 150, maybe 100 yards over the battle for 3rd position between Ruttman and Harry Gant.
On pit road, Ron Bouchard, the rookie challenger, has taken his car to the garage area. They blew their good engine in practice and have now just coasted out of this race. Bouchard, battling Morgan Shepherd for the rookie point battle, appears to be out of today's race. Neil Bonnet battles with Richard Petty. What a competitive race this has been since the drop of the green flag. 24 laps have been completed, 36 of the 500 miles that will make up the Atlanta Journal 500. 27 laps into the Atlanta Journal 500. You're watching Neil Bonnet, the leader, in the Wood Brothers Ford Thunderbird. Right side of your screen, the red and blue number 43 of Richard Petty. Joe Ruttman, the California driver, is in the 3rd position. Harry Gant rides 4th. Joe Ruttman has now dropped to the 4th position. Gant is 3rd, and in 5th is Darrell Waltrip.
And Bobby Allison has now moved up to 6th position. There's Bobby in the Hardee's car. To give you an idea how frustrating the last half of the season has been, this guy won 4 times and led the points until June, but he has not won since the 21st of June on the trail.
Dave Marcus has just been on pit road to change tires. Likewise, the number 13 automobile. And Ned is on pit road with a story.
Mike, the tire that we're looking at here came off Dave Marcus' car number 71. It is blistered very badly. No one anticipated any major tire problems here today. Whether he has a chassis problem, the crew said he said the car was handling okay, but maybe there was too much pressure on that particular tire. But you can see the rubber has come away from the fabric. We'll keep our eyes on that kind of a problem here.
Here's another unscheduled pit stop coming down pit road, having dropped off the banking. This will be the Dick Brooks automobile, number 13, his 2nd pit stop. Brooks coasting into the pits, taking a look. His crew, the Carolina Tool and Equipment people, talking to their driver. They're going to change the left side tires. So tires may indeed be a story before this Atlanta Journal 500 is over. Neil Bonnet, the leader. Richard Petty in 2nd. Harry Gant, the pole sitter, has climbed back up to the 3rd position after running as far back as 5th. In 4th, Joe Ruttman. In 5th, the point leader, Darrell Waltrip, as we watch Dick Brooks on pit road.
Well, Brooks is one of those people, like so many, who came originally from a different part of the country, California, as Mike Joy mentioned, and now he's very firmly entrenched as a resident of the South. Matter of fact, he owns a Honda dealership in the Southeast.
The rookie point battle, only 10 points separating Morgan Shepherd from Ron Bouchard, and that margin may change as Ned Jarrett is on pit road.
Well, Ron Bouchard has dropped out in the car number 47. Ron, what went wrong?
I think we lost the motor, either seized the bearing or something. It started to lock up, so I just shut it down.
This hasn't been a good week for the New England
Not
team.
really. We got here Thursday and we practiced. The 2nd lap of practice, we had engine trouble, and it was our race engine. And we put a spare motor we had in from Wilkesboro that we ran, and we were hoping it was going to make the day, and it just didn't make it.
Going to hurt you in the point standings now.
Definitely. It always hurts when you fall out this early, and it's just one of them things.
Well, we're sorry to see you out of it.
Thank you very much, Ned.
Bouchard's team is unique. It's the only all-Yankee team on the Grand National Circuit, with a car owner, crew chief, and crew all from Connecticut, Bouchard from Pittsburgh, Mass, and they'll have to wait 2 weeks to the Winston Western 500 at Riverside, California to renew that battle and clinch it with Morgan Shepherd for Rookie of the Year. Watching the battle back at 15th and 16th position, another rookie, Tim Richmond, in the number 37 car, battling with Morgan Shepherd, the rookie point leader in number 96.
Well, Richmond, of course, is the guy who's had quite a number of rides, and you see Richmond coming very close to Jimmy Smut Means there, the former Nashville track champion, as they rocket ship through turns 1 and 2. Richmond, another guy, lean on experience, but certainly somebody who is not timid when it comes to putting his foot down on the floorboard.
Richmond, a former Rookie of the Year at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, part of that three-way battle for rookie honors in NASCAR racing here in 1981. And quite a rookie chase it's been. Morgan Shepherd has won one race, the Virginia 500 at Martinsville. Bouchard won at Talladega, and they've each won one Busch pole position. And there are the two rookie battlers in this event. Richmond in 37, and right behind him, Morgan Shepherd in the number 96 car.
You know, Mike, if Richmond does not win the Rookie of the Year crown in NASCAR this year, it'll be the first time in the last 5 seasons of automobile race driving that he has not won a major rookie crown somewhere. Super Modified, USAC Sprint, Super V, and Indy 500 champion as we look at the two leaders.
The rookie battle has been a hot one, and earlier Larry Nuber had a chance to meet with the 3 key contenders for Rookie of the Year.
The history books will tell us that the war between the states, between the North and the South, ended more than 100 years ago, but sometimes in Grand National stock car racing, well, you just don't know, and that's never been more true than this season's race for the championship honors of Rookie of the Year. First of all, representing the North in this corner, Tim Richmond. And you know, Tim Richmond, as I watch you this season, I think these guys got you hooked. We may not see you in the North again.
Well, I don't know. They've kind of taken me by surprise. You know, I wasn't too sure what to expect down here, and I come down, I liked it, and I want to stay now. And so I don't know if I'll be going back to Indianapolis or not.
And representing the South, Morgan Shepherd. And Morgan, it's been a long, hard, tough year, hasn't it?
Well, it has for all of us. You know, we've all had our ups and downs, and I lost my car sponsor and had to start over, you know, start hiking rides. Of course, I've done it before, but Tim and the rest of the boys, they've had a hard time too. So, you know, it's been tough for all of us, but we're all winners, and we're not going to be quitting. We're going to go at it that much harder, and you know, whatever.
And in this corner, you're right, representing the East, or actually the Northeast, Ronnie Bouchard. And Ronnie, I guess these guys probably would like to accomplish something you did a couple of months ago. You won on a super speedway.
We won at Talladega, and it was quite a day for us, and I think it just proved that, you know, my guys and car owner and everybody did a fantastic job, and the car just run well all day, and everything seemed to work out for us. We were real fortunate.
You know, that New Englander accent still doesn't really fit down here.
Well, they're trying to straighten me out here. They're trying to change my accent a little bit, but we're working on it.
Ronnie, on a serious note, perhaps a little more serious note, is it important to be Rookie of the Year down here in the South?
Well, I think any big honor like that would be something that, you know, you work so hard for. Morgan, Tim, myself, you know, we've all worked at it, and we'd all like to win it, but I think no matter what happens, whoever wins it or whatever happens at the end, I don't think it'll make a big difference for next year.
Morgan, Tim, who's going to win it?
I am.
Well, I think I will.
Ron Bouchard?
Oh, we're working at it.
Well, as Morgan Shepherd said a few minutes ago, they are all winners, and the race for Rookie of the Year this year in NASCAR has never been more close. It's going to go down right to the final event. They'll have to go out to California, yet another part of this country, to complete the quadrangle, North, East, South, and West, to determine this year's Rookie of the Year.
We're under the caution. Neil Bonnet is on pit road. Ricky Rudd has crashed in the first turn. We'll show you that in a moment. But right now, you're watching the world's fastest pit crew, the Wood Brothers of Patrick County, Virginia. Put 4 tires and 22 gallons of gasoline in Neil Bonnet's Wood Brothers Hodgdon Ford Thunderbird. And Bonnet is away. Virtually all of the leaders have come on to pit road. Richard Petty getting a 4-tire change on his STP Buick. There's Kyle Petty also getting tires all the way around. It's important after getting a few laps of green flag racing in to make a complete 4-tire change and check how all 4 of those tires are wearing. Earlier, Ned showed you the tire off Dave Marcus' car, indicating perhaps that car's not with the optimum handling setup. But they can read the tread across these tires and determine what chassis adjustments they may want to make on their next pit stop.
Mike, it's particularly important at this racetrack because of how long you are in the turns here at the Atlanta International Raceway. Also involved in the Rudd incident was Benny Parsons. Apparently, he slowed considerably. It appeared as though Benny may have lost the lap to the leaders as a result of the Rudd incident high above turn number 1.
The second half of the field now coming at the south end of pit road to complete their service. Looks like feeding time at the zoo, as it were. The caution came out 2 laps ago for Ricky Rudd up at turn number 1. The car looked as if it may have lost an engine as it went up into the barrier. Rudd wisely kept it up against the rail. We'll show you that in a moment as this second round of pit stops are continuing. There's Johnny Rutherford, the Levi Garrett car, receiving fresh Goodyear Racing tires. As we're under the caution at Atlanta International Raceway, 39 laps have been completed in the Atlanta Journal 500. Coming to you live from Atlanta International Raceway, we are under the second caution of the day. On lap 37, Ricky Rudd, the Gatorade machine, going into turn number 1, appeared to lose an engine and hit the wall. Rudd keeps the wheels steered to the right to keep his car out of the way of onrushing traffic and high against the concrete retaining wall. Benny Parsons had nowhere to go and also ended up in the wall behind Ricky Rudd as that car slows and comes to rest at turn number 2. A frustrating season. Ricky has had several top 5 finishes. He's 4th in the point parade, but he has yet to win for the Dygar Gatorade team, and that win will not come today. Benny Parsons was also involved in that incident, and in the Parsons pit, Ned Jarrett.
Benny has been in for the last 3 laps, Mike. They're trying to keep him from losing another lap. Right now, the crew is waiting for him to come back in. What they're doing, the front end was knocked out of alignment on the car, and so they have a string here that they're measuring the front end from the front to the rear so that they can get that car realigned and keep him in the action. There was not too much damage done other than that. They pulled the sheet metal away from the tires, so they are planning to keep Benny in the racing, but he did lose 1 lap.
Ricky Rudd has had what most observers would call a good season. 14 top 5 finishes, 4th place in the points, and he's earned for that team over $340,000. But not today. Lake Speed comes off of pit road.
Lake Speed, of course, a former national go-kart champion. You know, Mike, you were talking about Ricky Rudd a second ago. Kind of an interesting story. The first ride he ever had, he was 6 years of age. He got behind the wheel of a micro midget. It was actually designed for his sister to drive. He did that for about 5 or 6 years, and interestingly enough, Rudd originally wanted to go Formula 1 Grand Prix racing and ride the streets of Europe, places like Monaco and Germany and Hockenheim and so on and so forth. But he got sidetracked somewhere along the line and really found himself a home here in Grand National Stock Car Racing.
So the first round of what we would call scheduled pit stops have been in at about the 40-lap mark. As service continues, there's Benny Parsons in the Bud Moore car that Ned Jarrett just talked about. The man at the left side of your screen is Bud Moore, who owns that racing operation out of Spartanburg, South Carolina. They're prying sheet metal away from those fenders, trying to trim them away so they won't get close to the tires and cut them any further. You'll use a hammer, a wrench, your hands, or anything handy to try to get that service done and get Benny back on the track without losing another lap.
And Mike, you can see the string that they're using to measure to see if the car is squared up, because the right front was knocked back just a little bit. They have made an adjustment on that, and now they think they have it trued up again to where he can drive it fast around this racetrack.
Johnny Rutherford's car being rolled back to the garage area. He's out of the race early here at Atlanta in the Journal 500. Another quick measurement, the pace car up in turn 3. You may have noticed a radio headset atop Bud Moore. He is in two-way communication with his driver, as are most of the major teams. Pace car coming around, and the Speedy Dry and Track Crew truck has just about completed its service. It'll be a lap or 2 as they run that oil up out of turn number 1 and turn number 2. You're watching Ricky Rudd's car as it's rolled off to the garage area. The damage evident on the right side of the Gatorade machine. And Benny Parsons, after 5 or 6 stops, has taken the Bud Moore Melling Tool Ford back to the garage area as well. So the attrition rate rather high here in the early going. If you just joined us, we're at Atlanta, Georgia for the Atlanta Journal 500. Neil Bonnet, the leader, under the second caution of the afternoon. The first came out on the opening green flag when D.K. Ulrich, H.B. Bailey, and Rusty Wallace came together. This caution came out on lap 37, 7 laps ago for the Ricky Rudd, Benny Parsons crash at turn 1. Under the caution, you're watching Neil Bonnet in car number 21, the leader. Richard Petty riding in the second position. California driver Joe Ruttman is in the third spot behind the safety car. This will be a double file restart with the lapped automobiles moving up on the bottom of the racetrack. Now just climbing up into position. Those cars that are 1 or more laps down, the cars on the lead lap will be in the outside lane.
And Mike, significantly, as you look at the two leaders, Bonnet in the red and white number 21 and Petty, of course, and the Petty blue and STP orange number 43 have been very dominant in addition to just leading this race.
We're getting set to go back to the green, but first, Ricky Rudd out of the race is with Ned.
Ricky, what caused the accident?
Well, Ned, the motor exploded going right into the first corner. Didn't give me no warning or nothing. The motor just erupted, and all the oil hit the track right in front of me, and it was all over with real fast.
But you're okay?
Yeah, I'm in fine shape. The car and the motor didn't come out of it too good, but I'm in good shape.
Well, that was a tough break. Now back to the green flag is about to come out.
An added story to this restart. On the inside, the red black hooded car is Dave Marcus. He made an unscheduled pit stop early and went 1 lap down. Marcus is a Charger, and he'll try to get that lap back on the start.
Mike, not only a Charger, but he's a guy who's been practicing with the front runners on the last 2 days, Friday and Saturday. Marcus has been practicing with Bonnet, Petty, Gant, and Waltrip, so I expect him to hang tough at least for the next few laps here.
Bonnet a foot away from being 1 lap down, and now he is again lapped. Rather, Bonnet laps the Dave Marcus automobile. So Marcus in 71, a lap down. He's not giving it up yet. But Bonnet pulls around him on the high side at turn number 3. Second place, Richard Petty to the right side of your screen in the blue car with the yellow chevrons. That is Joe Ruttman, a little loose off the corner. The third, no, make that the second place car as he takes Petty on the outside. Ruttman moves up to second.
Well, Marcus, of course, is a guy who's been around Grand National stock car racing for quite some time, and when he was hooked up with Harry Hyde a few years ago, he was the hot shoe, winning quite a number of races on the super speedways, like Talladega, for instance.
Up front, Neil Bonnet, Joe Ruttman trying to make a run at the lead. Petty now, having dispensed with Marcus, closes in the third position. Fourth, the Pontiac of Harry Gant. And Darrell Waltrip comes up through traffic. Gary Ballou once, Joe Milliken twice, Morgan Shepherd 3 times, and now Waltrip is mired in heavy traffic back in the pack.
Well, not only mired in heavy traffic, but that's a dangerous place for Waltrip to be. Early in the race, of course, Darrell right now is charging as hard as he can because he does not want to lose sight of the leaders. He's in slower traffic trying to rush his way to the front.
Benny Parsons had to take his car behind the garage area. Let's find out why.
He was involved in that accident when Ricky Rudd blew his engine. Benny, you were just a victim of circumstances.
Again, yeah, I've been a victim quite a few times this year, Ned, and that was just another example. Although, you know, if I went a little, I think I'd have missed the wreck. But, you know, instincts tell you that the car's going to hit the wall, come back down, so I was going to go high and miss him. I got in the oil, and I couldn't control the car.
The damage didn't appear, looking at it, to be that great on the car. What really?
Well, what happened? The right front tire caused most of the blow, and it meant the ball joints and the suspension parts that hold the right front tire on. It bent all that stuff so that the car just goes down the straightaway, wiggling. it won't go in a straight line down the straightaway right now.
Well, here's a fellow who has had a tough season in 1981, even though he has won several races.
Benny Parsons out of it. We're watching Darrell Waltrip, the Mountain Dew Buick, car number 11 out of the Junior Johnson stable in Rhonda, North Carolina. Next time around will be 50 laps or 75 miles. And to set the field, Neil Bonnet is the leader in the Wood Brothers Ford. Running in second is Joe Ruttman. In the number 2 machine, the J.D. Stacy car. In third, 43, Richard Petty, stock car racing's all-time leader. In the 4th spot, Harry Gant in the green and white skull colors of the Reynolds and Needham team. Right behind Gant, wearing orange and white, is Bobby Allison in car number 28, 5th position for the Hardee's Buick. Top 5 after 50 laps, 75 miles.
Joe Ruttman, one of the new entrants to NASCAR Grand National Stock Car Racing, is a guy who has never won one of these races, but he is an established star on the USAC stock car circuit. In the 79 and 80 seasons, Ruttman won 8 of 20 races that he entered, or better than 1/3 of all the events that he competed in. And that includes running often on the mild dirts of the Midwest. So Joe Ruttman, a very versatile driver. Ruttman also has done well in Grand National West stock car competition, having won on the road courses. But Ruttman, you can see every once in a while some scenes of Joe Ruttman fighting the wheel of that J.D. Stacy number 2 going through the turns. Joe is not quite as comfortable, or maybe it's the car setup, who knows, on these high-speed turns here at Atlanta as are Bonnet and Petty.
Of course, the crews of the Bonnet car and the Petty car are also more experienced at setting up these race cars.
Average speed, not a new record at 40 laps, 134 miles an hour. Neil Bonnet has led 36 of the 51 laps. Darrell Waltrip running back in the pack. How about the pressure of the point championship, Darrell? Does it get to you?
Well, we're aware of it, Ned, and you know how important it is. I think everybody does, but it hadn't changed our philosophy any. We go into every race, we want to set on the pole and we want to win. Circumstances allow themselves, we will set on the pole and we will win. If we can't, then just like yesterday, we would take a second place or we would take a third place. At this point in time, the big thing is to be consistent, stay out of trouble, and get as good a finish as you can. And if we continue to do that for the next 2 races, we should be in good shape as far as the Winston Cup Championship is concerned.
Waltrip running back at about 12th position. He's out of the top 10. He made a late pit stop under the caution and is now trying to come back up through the field of the Junior Johnson machine. They have had phenomenal success. Watching Neil Bonnet, the leader, car number 21, the Wood Brothers machine. In second, Joe Ruttman, the J.D. Stacy entry, the blue-yellow chevroned car. In third, the STP Buick, that's Richard Petty, the sport's all-time winner. In fourth, the green and white Burt Reynolds, Hal Needham car for Harry Gant, the pole sitter. And in fifth, right behind that front 4, right side of your screen, there is Bobby Allison. In the Hardee's Buick, Waddell Wilson, the crew chief on that Harry Ranier car.
Mike, I like the race that Allison's been running as we look at Darrell Waltrip, who's back in, about 15th or 16th position right now. Now moving up to 12th, NASCAR timing and scoring says. Waltrip was caught in some slower traffic after the last series of pit stops and has really had to grapple his way through a bevy of race cars to get an open racetrack in front of him. I started to comment on the race that Allison is running. I think it's a crafty one, Mike. He looks strong. He has not made a move to the front, but boy, he's hanging right in there. And I look for some things from Allison about the midpoint of this race if the car is still going.
Well, I'd wonder from Ned Jarrett, who himself a 2-time Winston Cup Grand National champion. Ned, it's got to be tough to sit back there and not charge for the lead when you know you have a car that's capable of doing it.
It certainly is, Mike, and particularly a driver like Waltrip, who is a charger by nature. That's the way that he wants to do it. But I'll tell you, when you look at the rewards of the Winston Cup Championship, and it's so close to his breath right now, it takes a lot of discipline to do that, but apparently he has it.
The man that's charging right now is Richard Petty, who was just into your screen on the right side, up to the 3rd spot. Here's Cale Yarborough in 27 and Bill Elliott in car number 9. Cale is 9th, Elliott is 10th after this last round of pit stops. 56 laps have been completed. That's 85 miles at Atlanta International Raceway. Of the 500 that will make up today's 30th of 31 races on the NASCAR circuit. The battle is heated up at the front of the pack. Neil Bonnet with Ruttman right on his bumper. Harry Gant is running for that 3rd position as they head off toward turn number 1. We're watching that run for 7th spot. Terry Labonte, front car in that battle, along with the Tim Richmond machine. Now Cale Yarborough in 27. Bill Elliott in car number 9.
Well, that red and white number 9 of Bill Elliott is pretty much a family operation. Bill's brother, Ernie, is the chief mechanic in that car. There's Cale Yarborough close up. Elliott once again in the red and white number 9, a guy who is a younger fellow on this circuit, but he's got about 3 racetracks he seems to do well at. Atlanta is one of them. The other 2 are Talladega, the world's fastest racetrack, and the Michigan International Speedway up in the rolling hills of southern Michigan. Bill Elliott in the red and white number 9, and the old crafty veteran Cale Yarborough in the black and white number 27.
Yarborough won this race last year. He also won the Dixie 500 here in the spring. A look back up front at Bonnet and Joe Ruttman, the front 2 cars, but the story has been right behind them. Richard Petty, Harry Gant, and Bobby Allison have been shifting 3rd, 4th, and 5th spots right behind them. There's Petty's car coming into view, and here's the whole front 5 for a family portrait off the corner. Gant has a look on the low side, but will not be able to make the move off to turn number 1. That is high-speed chess at 150 some odd miles per hour. Petty up in the high groove, Gant just a little bit higher, but Bonnet and Ruttman still running right down at the track apron, and that's a good sign. If you get your car to handle and stay at the bottom for much of the afternoon, that's a good key to success here. As Larry Newbert told you earlier, each of these turns is half a mile long. Each of the straightaways only a 1/4 mile, so you've got to get the car to work through the corners.
And what happens on this racetrack, because you are in the turn so long, there is a little more scuffing of the tires than normal, as we see Harry Gant test the inside of Richard Petty. A lot of rubber gets laid down in the turns, and late in the race, particularly after lap 350, and as we approach, or rather mile 350, and as we approach mile 400, the bottom groove gets very slippery, and it's likely that the fast groove will actually move up about 1 or 1.5 lanes as we get down near the latter stages of the race.
Harry Gant runs for the 3rd spot, and Richard Petty holds him off as they get off into turn number 3. Gant had the inside all the way down the straightaway. Now Allison's trying it for 4th against Gant. Bobby puts the Hardee's Buick low on the racetrack, but doesn't quite have the jump off the corner. Drops back into line, single file in 5th position. As the front 5 battle and begin to work some slower traffic to the north end of the speedway. Lapping by one of the lap machines, that looks like Travis Tiller car that started back in the 38th position. This is the next to last race of the Winston Cup season. In 2 weeks, November 22nd, they will be going to Riverside International Raceway in Riverside, California. The Winston Western 500 will decide the Winston Cup Championship, and then it all starts for the new season and the Super Bowl of stock car racing in Daytona. At Atlanta International Raceway, 62 laps. 96 miles have been completed. Neil Bonnet leading Joe Ruttman, Richard Petty, and Harry Gant. Neil Bonnet continues to lead at Atlanta International Raceway. In 2nd now, Richard Petty. 3rd is Harry Gant. And Joe Ruttman got kicked all the way back to 4th spot.
Mike, he did. He made a move as he came off the 4th turn. Ruttman, who was running in 2nd at the time, and Bonnet, who was leading, came up on the slower moving Tommy Gale. Gale was right in the middle of the racetrack. He really didn't have any time to react. They kind of snuck up on him as they came off the banking, and Joe went way down in the basement on the absolute bottom of the racetrack, right there about 5 laps ago. And when he went down, Richard Petty immediately moved to the 2nd lane, and he moved by, and Gant almost got by.
The race is for 3rd, right side of your screen. Joe Ruttman, Harry Gant battling for the 3rd position here. Petty wants the lead in turn number 2. Richard Petty takes his Buick underneath the Ford of Neil Bonnet, edges past him in the back straightaway, and for the 2nd time today, Petty up front. But there's a lap car dead ahead.
Are you sure, Mike?
Steve Bonnet keeps Petty pinned low. Petty just edges Bonnet up in the groove and takes away that spot. Rim riding way up high on the racetrack, higher than Bonnet wants to be, and he surrenders the lead at the stripe. It's Petty by a car length.
I'll tell you, there was some real hard-nosed race driving going on there. Bonnet did his very best to actually put Richard Petty behind the 8 ball, so to speak, and Petty would have nothing of it, and he moved right up in Neil. And for a moment there, it's kind of a battle of guts, Mike Joy. Who's going to give first? And I have to say that Richard Petty may have outbraved Neil Bonnet, at least on that lap, but there's a long ways to go.
Exactly, and nobody's going to win the race on this lap, that's for sure. Petty has the lead. It's by a car length. He's driving the STP Buick, which, like all of these NASCAR Grand National cars, are 3,700-pound stock cars that closely resemble the cars that you or I would drive on the street to the supermarket. But underneath, it's all high-performance parts, 600-horsepower engines, special transmissions and rear ends, and it propels these cars on a track like this to average speeds on every lap of 155 to 160 miles per hour. Petty is in a Buick. Neil Bonnet, the 2nd-place car, is driving a Ford. Joe Ruttman in 3rd, a Buick. And we look back to Terry Labonte, who was running in the 6th position, just barely out of the top 5. Tim Richmond is right there with him. One driver who will not see the checkered flag today, former Indy 500 winner Johnny Rutherford, finds himself on the other side of the microphone with Ned Jarrett.
Well, Mike, he has won the Indianapolis 500 3 times, but 1981 hasn't been too kind to him on the NASCAR circuit.
No, Ned, he really hasn't. If I hadn't had bad luck, we wouldn't have had any luck at all, I'll tell you. It's been incredible, and what happened today is it's just kind of the frosting on the cake. The gearbox broke. It knocked the gear shifter knob off of the shifter. The thing just stirred around. It was locked in 4th gear. Couldn't get it out of 4th into any other gear because of the broken gearbox, and I don't have any explanation for that.
Well, those things, this is a crazy business, and sometimes crazy things happen within it. Johnny, how about plans for 1982?
Better be better, I'll tell you. I probably will not run as many Grand National stock car races. It's been a very hectic season for me, running back and forth between Indianapolis cars with CART and then the stock cars with NASCAR. And I think splitting it up makes it awfully tough. So I'm going to concentrate on the championship racing and come over here and do what races I can for the Levi Garrett team. And hopefully it'll work out a little better.
Well, we'll look forward to that, Johnny. Better luck next time around.
That's the hood up on Jimmy Means' automobile, the Broadway Motors Pontiac from Huntsville, Alabama. Short afternoon for the likable young competitor out of Alabama. Darrell Waltrip moving up on the Jeff Bodine automobile. Bodine 1 week ago the winner at Martinsville, Virginia in the Cardinal 500. Average speed, not a new record, 121 miles per hour. Been slowed by 2 caution flags on the first and 37th lap of this race. Bodine and Waltrip, very similar driving styles and perhaps conversational styles with the press. Both drivers young, brash, and outspoken about the future of NASCAR stock car racing and their role in it. Waltrip looks low. Bodine gives him just barely enough room.
Yeah, Mike, that's an interesting comment. The two of these guys do have a way of working themselves into the headlines, no matter where they finish or no matter what racetrack it is. Of course, Bodine is a guy who's driven all forms of automobile races. He actually started out as a modified driver in the Northeast. He also, for quite a number of years, ran a rear-engine super modified at the super fast Oswego International Speedway in upstate Oswego, New York.
Waltrip now at 11th place. Bodine has dropped back to the 12th position. Waltrip trying to scramble back into the top 10. He is the Grand National point leader. Bobby Allison, who led the points until mid-season, now finds himself 68 points behind Waltrip, but ahead of Darrell in this, the next to last race of this championship season.
Well, running down the standings at lap number 70, Petty was the leader. Bonnet, of course, running second. And just a note on Bonnet as we look at the leader, Petty. Bonnet is washing out in the middle of the turns. Perhaps there's a tire going soft. Maybe it's the way that the chassis and suspension was set up, Mike Joy, but we'll watch the progress of Bonnet. He continues to go into that second lane as he goes around turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 here at the Atlanta International Raceway.
On the right side of your screen, Neil Bonnet up high on the track, the white, red roof, number 21 Wood Brothers car. Racing Joe Rutman, the young California driver that Jim Stacy picked up when he bought the Rod Osterlund team at mid-season. Rutman running for second position with Neil Bonnet. Bonnet's car, he has found, works better on the high side of the racetrack, as Larry just told you. The green and white machine moving into view is Harry Gant, the 4th place car coming up to challenge in the battle for those front 4 positions. Just past the 100-mile mark here at Atlanta, Richard Petty out in front of Neil Bonnet and Joe Rutman. Ned Jarrett is standing by in the Rutman pits.
Standing by Dale Inman. Dale, the car seems to be working super well today.
Well, we're running pretty good, Ned, but it's still a long way to go for us.
This perhaps is your best performance since Joe Rutman came on the team.
No, I think the first night out we run at Bristol was our best performance because we was leading then when we went out. Hopefully we don't go out today.
What's the strategy now? Just run flat out?
That's the way it is everywhere.
Okay, that's Dale Inman. Of course, keeping close tabs with his driver, Joe Rutman, out there as he travels for the lead.
Richard Petty is the leader. You're watching Neil Bonnet in 21, the 2nd place car, and Joe Rutman, car number 2, riding 3rd. Bobby Allison is 4th. Harry Gant is now 5th. Terry Labonte rides in the 6th position. 7th is Tim Richmond. 8th is Cale Yarborough. In 9th is Bill Elliott. And 10th is Kyle Petty. Jeff Bodine's in the 11th spot. And Darrell Waltrip running in the 12th position. Joe Milliken is 13th. Dale Earnhardt is 14th. And 15th is the Morgan Shepherd automobile.
Mike, Joe Rutman is now working the inside once again of Bonnet. He has not passed Neil once all day long. He's been close, he's been knocking at the door, but that's an interesting battle, particularly as we think ahead toward the end of the race. Bonnet's car not in the fastest or shortest way around this racetrack in terms of lanes. He's either chosen to drive up there or the car won't work low. Rutman keeps trying to move in, and he just can't get by. Richard Petty, I think, is the only guy on the racetrack at speed we have seen pass by Neil Bonnet today.
Watch Bonnet's 21 car come off the corner. That's where it picks up ground on Joe Rutman. The reason, perhaps, a little bit of extra horsepower beneath the hood of that Ford that Leonard Wood, the crew, have dialed in. That power gets them off the turn quicker and down the straightaway. See, midway in the turn, Joe Rutman comes to advantage. Great battle here, ongoing for second place. 77 laps completed at Atlanta. In the Journal 500, Petty the leader, 21 Bonnet in second. Or is it the 2 of Joe Rutman? The difference is but half a car length. Harry Gant rides in the 4th position. Bobby Allison is 5th. We'll be back with more of the Atlanta Journal 500 in a moment.
One of the former winners of the Atlanta Journal 500 is Buddy Baker, who drives the Uno car number 1. We're standing by with Hoss Ellington, who owns that car. Hoss, we talked with you last night, and you said the car was in super shape. You thought you was going to be able to run up front, but it hasn't quite been able to do it. What is the problem?
I don't know, Ned. I tell you, Uno sure can't do it right now, so maybe we get it dialed in. We've been starting over a whole lot of loose in the car, so we get get another caution or either come on in and just a chance some more, I guess.
And that's what you mean when you say getting it dialed in.
That's right. We had it dialed in yesterday, but I don't know what happened overnight. But we'll get it. Maybe we'll get it worked out after a while.
Did the track change some from yesterday?
I think, yeah, bound to have did. We was running 33s yesterday, and the other day we're running 35.
Okay, well that did make a difference, and they'll be right on top of you, hoping to get Buddy Baker back up near the front. Thank you.
Right on top of each other, Cale Yarborough in 27 and Darrell Waltrip in the 11 car. Running now for 10th position. Jeff Bodine is right there with him. There goes Waltrip underneath. Average speed still not a record, 129 miles an hour. After 80 laps, 120 miles. Waltrip has gone by Yarborough. That will put him up into the top 10, but just barely.
Remember Waltrip, the guy in the lead of that pack on your screen right now, the Mountain Dew car. Lots of people up in Purchase, New York, I'm sure, cheering for that one. He has won the last 4 races on the trail. He's got a string of 12 in a row, and he's been in the top 3. That is an incredible record.
Waltrip in car number 11 is 10th. To your right, Cale Yarborough, 11th in car 27. The number 5, the Pontiac of Joe Milliken, is 12th. And 01 is Jeff Bodine in 13th. Milliken, a protege of Richard Petty, won the Daytona Sportsman 300 in a Petty Enterprises car several years ago. Drove for L.G. DeWitt, who by coincidence also owns this racetrack and now works under Atlanta Raceway's all-time winner, Cale Yarborough. Milliken in a Pontiac, Yarborough in a Buick, and they're about to trade 11th spot. Milliken's got it off of turn 4.
Well, Milliken is one of those guys who over the past 5 years has been ticketed by many people as one of the stars of the future, but the problem is so many of the old stars of the Grand National line continue to race year after year. Joe's an interesting young man. He says that he likes to get away from all of it. He likes the solitude of farming and cattle ranching, which he's involved in Monday through Friday when he's not driving race cars.
Well, Cale drove for Junior Johnson right up until this year. There's Joe Milliken running just ahead of Yarborough. Here's Richard Petty up front in the Atlanta Journal 500. He holds the track record here at Atlanta for 500 miles at an average speed of 144 miles per hour in winning the spring race back in 1977. 2 caution flags already today. That record may yet be in jeopardy, although the early pace has been slowed by H.P. Bailey's crash on the opening green flag and Ricky Rudd's blown engine and subsequent crash at turn 1 on lap number 37. Along with those 2 also out of the race today, Benny Parsons, Johnny Rutherford, and rookie contender Ron Bouchard.
Petty has also given us a demonstration of how and why drafting is not quite as much of a factor at this racetrack as it is on the 2-mile tracks and longer. You see the interval there that Richard has. The second place car of Joe Ruttman is not even in the picture. He's almost a full straightaway behind Richard Petty. Petty has broken from the lead draft, or what there was of the lead draft, and has really opened up a comfortable advantage. And despite the fact that he's running on the track by himself, that's a situation that normally slows you down. In Grand National stock car racing, he seems to be creeping even further away from the 2nd and 3rd place cars of Ruttman and Neil Bonnet.
Good battle back in the pack. This one happens to be for 17th position, but it's just as hot as the race up front, and it involves 2 of the young lions of the circuit. Gary Ballou out of North Miami Beach, Florida, driving car number 75, the Bob Rahilly Raymock entry, and Tommy Ellis, the National Sportsman Champion, the Industrial Boiler Chevrolet, out of Richmond, Virginia, car number 55. Ellis they used to call Terrible Tommy for his exploits on the bull rings of Virginia and the Carolinas. In fact, he and Jeff Bodine have had a season-long feud this season, racing in sportsman cars, but they're both trying to strut their stuff in Winston Cup stock car racing, and 2 could be a couple of strong contenders for rookie honors when it comes to 1982. Ballou in a Buick. Oh, and there's trouble right there. Ballou got loose. Sideways is Tommy Ellis. Ballou cracks the wall. And the self-cleaning banks at Atlanta, 24 degrees high, allow both those cars to roll to the bottom of the racetrack without further incident. One bobble, one moment's hesitation or slip up can send a car sliding and slamming into the wall, as just happened to Gary Ballou.
Well, Mike, I saw a little bit of smoke or maybe dust. You can't tell which one it was until we look at it to replay. Maybe we'll be able to zero in on it, but something in the air flew out of the tail section of the Ballou car as he was entering turn number 3. Now, it's possible that something broke on the inside of that race car. Maybe it was just as you suggested. He got just too high on the racetrack. There's a bunch of loose dirt right up along the wall. You cannot race at 150, 160 miles an hour up there along the wall. It's very slippery.
Gary Ballou is okay. He is out of the car but dejected. There's that puff of smoke just up on the high side, and it came from underneath the engine compartment. Looked like something let go on Gary Ballou's car. Tommy Ellis did not touch him, so he spun just to avoid the crash. And with the caution car on the speedway now, everybody is going for pit road. Those cars spin to the inside, and here is the STP team. On pit road, Maurice Petty, Wade Thornburg, Steve Hamill, and the crew go to work. Only 5 men are allowed over the pit wall to change tires and fuel the car, so the windshield wipers and everyone are working from behind the pit wall with long extension arms. They hand Richard a drink, clean the windshield, fill it with gasoline, and they're going for 4 tires. A 4-tire change on the Petty car, likewise for Neil Bonnet and the Wood brothers, and for most of the field.
Richard Petty, of course, the guy who has won more races than any other Grand National driver in history. Going back to 1972, for instance, he entered 31 races on the trail, and 25 times, as Petty has a close call coming out of the pits, 25 times in that 1972 season, Petty finished in the top 5.
Well, pit stops can be critical to the success of any NASCAR race. And pit road is kind of a tough place to be sometimes, as Richard Petty explained to Ned Jarrett earlier.
Well, it's going how far you're ahead or behind. You know, like on a caution flag and stuff like that, where it doesn't make that much difference how you get out of the pit, then you don't pay that much attention to how long the pit stops are. But if you run under a green, make a green stop, I guess if they made one in 5 seconds, it'd seem like you're sitting there forever.
We are under the 3rd caution of the afternoon at the Atlanta Journal 500 at Atlanta International Raceway. Richard Petty has come off of this pit stop to take the lead. Joe Ruttman rides in 2nd. Neil Bonnet is the 3rd place car. Quick pit stop by Tommy Ellis. He moves up to the 4th position. Bobby Allison is 5th and Harry Gant is 6th. As we're under the caution, let's take this break from the Atlanta Journal 500. We'll be back. Hot shoe Gary Ballou, dejected and disappointed as his Reebok car hit the wall up in turn number 3. Taking a look at the damage to see if it can be repaired, but it looks like the end of the day for Ballou's efforts here at Atlanta, Georgia this afternoon. Ballou was locked in a battle with Tommy Ellis coming down the back straightaway. Watch underneath the front of the 75 car. As they roll in the backstretch, boom. Ballou's engine apparently let go, and in the oil, neither he nor Tommy Ellis could keep his car in a straight line. When oil gets on these racing tires, which are slick and have no tread for maximum traction on a dry surface, this is the end result. And Larry, we watch these cars go so fast, 150, 60 miles an hour, you don't realize how close they are to the edge of control until something like this happens.
Mike, you really do. We've commented many times, I think, on our ESPN broadcast about how you lose some of the illusion of speed, particularly on these big tracks. Remember, this racetrack is 1.522 miles in length. And after you watch these cars for about 20 or 30 laps at speed, you kind of forget that they're going about 3 times what we normally drive up and down the highway at. If you've ever had to cram your brakes on, let's say on ice at 40 miles an hour and tried to control your car, you've got just a beginning of the sense of the feel and the touch that these race drivers have when they have trouble on the racetrack at 150 miles per hour plus.
Already we've seen 2 rounds of pit stops, and these fellas in this high-speed ballet make it look easy to change 2 tires and add gas. Well, it's not that easy, as we found out.
If you have a flat tire on the highway, it might take 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes to change it. It's not quite that way in Grand National Racing. They do it much quicker. Members of Tommy Ellis's crew is going to show us how it's done. Go, fellas. I'm going to put the stopwatch on you. They're going to change the right rear tire. Of course, there's 3 men working on it, one taking the wheel off, one jacking it up, the other one helps put it on there. The lugs are already glued on the wheel. That makes it, of course, a lot quicker. Of course, they have the air wrenches, which is quite different from the lug wrench that you would use on the highway. That helps to speed it up also. Well, 18 3/10 seconds, that's not too bad. Sometimes they do this as little as 13 seconds on race day, but 18 3/10 seconds here in this practice run wasn't too bad. And now to demonstrate how simple this is and the fact that the average person off the street can do this very quickly, our guys, Larry Nuber and Mike Joy, shows us how quick it can be done. Go, fellas. Of course, they run around to the side of the car, and here comes their tire, taking the lugs off. The jack is going up. You might say that Larry is a little bit nervous, but it's the first time he's done this. Of course, he's having a little bit of trouble with the lug wrench. He didn't get all of the lugs off. Now Mike Joy comes over to help him, puts the other tire on. His tire man carries that tire away. Working very nicely and very smoothly here. Now, bear in mind, folks, you do it faster than you do it. Hey, you got to put all of them on. He only put 1 on and he's ready to go. I'm not sure that NASCAR officials would let him go out with the car that way with only 1 lug on it. Well, now they did this. They Mike Joy knows that that's not according to the rules, and they did this in 41 seconds. But bear in mind, they only put one lug nut on there, and I think they'd be disqualified before they go out on the track. Hey, I think you fellas better go back upstairs.
Ned, I want to tell you that David Pearson, the second leading driver of all time on the circuit, told me it only took one lug to keep the tire on. He said that was okay.
Now, Mike, you knew better than that.
5, Larry. 5 lug nuts. Or they'll call you back in the pits and make you do it all over again.
I believe you fellas better go back up to the booth.
Probably right, Ned.
Well, Tommy Ellis's car is being worked on by people obviously more qualified than we were. But it points out that it's not easy to get over and change those tires in 15 seconds and come back. There's Tommy Ellis carrying his ESPN colors, and Ned Jarrett is right there with him.
Has come in several times, Mike, during this caution period. Of course, he spun in that incident over there with Gary Ballou. Did no damage to the car other than flat spot for the tires. Why did he come back in this time, Chuck?
Tommy Ellis rolling along the apron of the track and coming back up to speed. 5 lug nuts, Larry.
It's a true story. Pearson did set me up. He told me that'd be enough.
Well, let's set up the attrition in this race that has been almost as horrendous as Larry's tire changing attempt.
Now, Mike, you're very unkind. H.B. Bailey, of course, guy knocked out in the first lap crash here in the front stretch. Ronnie Bouchard, who won at Talladega earlier this year, out on lap number 22. Ricky Rudd from the Chesapeake, Virginia area. Sad to report for all those folks up there that Rudd is no longer in competition here today. Johnny Rutherford, representing the folks down in the Lone Star State, Fort Worth to be exact, out on lap number 39. Benny Parsons, involved in the Ricky Rudd incident, also tried, but in vain, along with his crew, to work their car and nurse it back into the field. They failed. He is out officially. And Jimmy Means, one of the regulars on the NASCAR Grand National Circuit for quite a number of years now, a lean country gentleman, also retired from this race.
In addition, Dave Marcus's car being worked on pit road and the James Hilton car being repaired behind the pit wall. There's the Marcus machine, the hood up on the Richard and Leo Jackson car, the Buck Stoll. J.D. Stacy entry for Dave Marcus out of Wausau, Wisconsin. He will get back into this race. The Hilton car has been behind the pit wall for some time. 97 laps complete. Richard Petty leads Joe Ruttman. Neil Bonnet, Bobby Allison, and Harry Gant will be back to the Atlanta Journal 500. Caution still out at Atlanta. You're watching Richard Petty in the lead as Ned Jarrett is on pit road with the Tommy Ellis crew.
We mentioned that he had come in several times during this caution period, and Chuck, one of his crew members, is holding the bolt. What does that do, Chuck?
That goes in the end of the crankshaft, what holds the harmonic balancer on. It's broken off, and we're going to try to find maybe a shorter bolt and butt it up against it.
So you're going to bring him back in to try to make that repair?
I hope so.
Well, we're sorry to see him having that tough luck, but he's got that bolt out here in his hand, and it won't do the job. He's got to make some kind of an adjustment on that race car.
So Tommy Ellis's car pushed behind the pit wall. Without that balancer on the front end of the crankshaft of the engine just sits there and just vibrates, kind of works like a wearing blender on your innards.
Mike, you get an idea when a car is involved in an incident. Remember, Ellis just spun. He touched nothing. He did not hit the outside retaining wall. He did not hit Ballou when Ballou crashed against the outer retaining barrier. But all kinds of things can happen that simply don't show on the outer skin of the race car. Suspension could have been damaged as the car bumped down to the bottom of the racetrack, off the 24-degree banking down to the relatively flat part of the speedway. And in this particular case, the over-revving of the engine apparently caused some trouble internally that simply couldn't be seen from the grandstands.
At the front of the pack, NASCAR Scoring trying to straighten out the Jeff Bodine machine. Bodine beat the pace car coming onto pit road, pulled in right behind it. He should have come around to the back of the field and thus be the last car on the lead lap, but instead, he's there behind the pace car just ahead of Richard Petty, and that would put him, for all intents and purposes, one lap down. They're trying to explain to the Bodine crew that he is not the current leader, but is instead one lap in arrears. There is the Bodine car running just behind the safety car. 2 years ago, he won 60 out of 85 races entered for the Dick Armstrong team in Massachusetts. He's trying to make the break into the big time of stock car racing. Strong performance here today could do it.
Pleasant Garden, North Carolina, his current place of residence as he tries to entrench himself in Grand National stock car racing. A young man whose family owns a racetrack up in New York, Chemming, New York, his original hometown. And Bodine, of course, most famous for his patented blue and white number 99s.
Jeff Bodine will go to the tail end of the field as the crowd watches on. Under caution for the third time today. We'll be back to Atlanta International Raceway in Hampton, Georgia, shortly. 101 laps completed at Atlanta International Raceway. 152 miles, 348 to go in the Atlanta Journal 500. We're getting set for the restart. Richard Petty, left side of your screen. The STP Buick is the leader. Those cars at the right side of your screen are one or more laps behind. They have to take this restart in that bottom groove. So the leaders on the high part of the racetrack as they shuffle into turn one. Petty the leader. Joe Ruttman in car number 2, riding in the second position. Average speed slowed by cautions to 123 miles per hour. And Waltrip is very slow on the start. He is not yet up to speed.
Darrell Waltrip, who really has not made much noise. And look at him, 4 abreast down the backstretch as Buddy Baker drops almost down on the grass to get by. Waltrip has not been making much noise at all this year. And when they dropped it, or rather this race, and when they dropped the green flag here, Waltrip never seemed to work back up to speed.
Waltrip is heading for pit road, and the point standing leader is in trouble. Darrell Waltrip on pit road. The Junior Johnson Mountain Dew crew goes to work. Let's go to Ned.
The problem is that the right rear tire was flat on that car on the restart. A very tough break here for Darrell Waltrip in his bid for the championship. This could hurt him because he could go a lap down. They've made that tire good, quick tire change.
Waltrip down pit road. He may perhaps be able to stay on the lead lap. On the replay, Waltrip at turn number 2, running with the pack, just bobbles a bit there, and here goes the train right on by.
Well, Bill Elliott was right behind Darrell when that happened. Of course, he touched him just a little or so. It seemed impossible to tell whether or not that touch had anything to do with it. It didn't look like it. It looked like Waltrip had slowed. While he was in the pits, he did drop a lap to the leaders. The lead draft went by as Waltrip was in the pits, and something else happened while Waltrip was in the pits. Joe Ruttman, for the very first time today with a brand new set of rubber and maybe even a chassis change during the last caution flag pit stop, worked his way to the inside of Richard Petty through the 3rd and 4th turns and took the lead.
Joe Ruttman is the 4th different leader in the Atlanta Journal 500. Darrell Waltrip, Neil Bonnet, and Richard Petty. The other 3 drivers to lead this race, Ruttman in car 2. The J.D. Stasic Buick, and here comes Bonnet again to the bottom of the racetrack. All of these cars have fresh tires and a full tank of gasoline. Bonnet's car has run best with a full tank. Right behind them, coming into view, Harry Gant, the 4th place car, the green and white number 33, and Bobby Allison, the point standing runner-up, riding 5th in the orange and white Hardee's Buick. The race is for the lead. Down at turn number 1, Ruttman holds off the charges of Neil Bonnet. Petty in 43 is 3rd, and with fresh tires, all of these cars are working well again down at the bottom edge of the racetrack. Here comes Bonnet, steamrolling down the backstretch into turn 3, right down at the bottom line. Halfway through the turn, Ruttman tries to pull up. Bonnet comes up in the groove and takes that line away. Here's Petty right on the inside, coming up side by side with Ruttman for the 2nd spot at the start-finish line. And into turn 1, Harry Gant has caught Petty's draft. Now he slides way up high. A bobble there just for a moment. And Gant gets underneath Richard Petty, who bobbled going into the turn, and Harry Gant in 33. The pole sitter is now the 2nd place car, and they may have made contact.
And a guy who has quietly worked his way up, and he's lurking in the shadows behind this lead quintet as Petty again looked like for a second he was almost out of control. But right behind this lead quintet is Kyle Petty. You'll see him into your picture just past these first 5 cars. There's the car of Jeff Bodine, which is 1 lap down, and then another car painted just like Richard Petty's car, or so it would seem on your screen. Kyle Petty is in 6th position.
Watching Richard Petty in 43, the 3rd place car, drafting Harry Gant in 33. That will help Gant in the straightaway to take the lead, and Harry Gant, the pole sitter, becomes the 5th different leader in the Atlanta Journal 500 if he can hold that lead to the start-finish line.
Put that one in the memory bank. Neil Bonnet has been the most powerful car on the racetrack today, but Petty and Gant just found out that if they hook up in a draft, at least with Gant as the lead car, they can blow away Neil Bonnet, at least down the backstretch. They'll remember that.
Well, Harry Gant is driving for the Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham team, the Hollywood folks out in California. Reynolds, a noted actor. Hal Needham, a director of the Smokey and the Bandit movies and one of filmdom's most famous stuntmen. They put together this team and have seen Harry finish 2nd 7 times this season, 10 times in his 2-year Winston Cup career. But he hasn't yet won a race. They've tried everything to find out what it takes to win races. They even consulted a psychic out in California to find out what it takes.
And that psychic...
really, Hal
Needham had talked to the psychic in California, you know, and she predicted some things, and but we hadn't talked to her lately, so I don't know. She said we're going to win a big race, and it looked like it's about the last big one left, so it's got to be this one.
Well, it takes a Ouija board and an awful lot of luck and maybe even a psychic to get to victory lane these days. This sport has become so competitive. Witness the top 5 cars. Out of turn number 4, Bonnet in 21, Gannon 33. Third is Petty, fourth is Ruttman, and fifth is Bobby Allison.
And that psychic who was consulted predicted that there was a victory yet this year. Of course, they're always careful how they state themselves, but all the facts that were assembled seem to indicate there was a victory in Harry Gant's future yet in the 1981 season. And you know, Mike, there are a lot of people who probably feel him to be the sentimental favorite here today.
Good battle for 8th position. Bill Elliott in the Melgear machine. The 8th place car is Elliott in car number 9 from Dawsonville, Georgia. Right behind him, Joe Milliken works underneath in the Cliff Stewart Performance Connection Pontiac. And there's Dale Earnhardt in the Wrangler Jeans Machine Pontiac, the Richard Childress car, the defending Winston Cup champion. So in NASCAR racing, we're seeing that the racing in the back of the pack or in the middle is every bit as good as it is right up front.
And just in front of them is Tim Richmond and all 4 of those cars. Richmond, who's to the left of your screen, Milliken. The 4 of them are on the same lap. There's Richmond working his way into our picture there as Richmond goes down the backstretch. They're still on the same lap with the leader, so if something major should happen up front, right now this is the battle for 6th on back. It could be the battle for the lead.
Richmond has had a strong season. The Bob Rogers Auto Leasing Buick out of Greenville, South Carolina has been his ride for the second half of the Winston Cup campaign. Milliken riding right behind him. That is Richmond in car number 37, a Buick. Right behind Joe Milliken in a Pontiac. 13 cars are on the lead lap with 113 laps completed. The race for 6th position, watching Tim Richmond reach up just to adjust the mouthpiece on his 2-way radio, as most of the field are in communications with their pit crews for several reasons. A driver can talk to his team about race strategy, about how the car is performing, about what he wants changed on the pit stops. The crew chief can tell the driver about what's happening at the other end of the racetrack, if there's a caution, if there's a crash, and they can relate back and forth to the type of thing that's happening right now, change of position. Milliken getting underneath the number 37 car of Tim Richmond. There's Travis Carter, Harry Gant's crew chief, with his 2-way radio setup. Much like the Telex sportscasters that we wear here in the booth. They're designed to block out noise and still be able to talk to your driver. And Ned Jarrett down at pit road, I'll bet when you won your 2 Grand National Championships, you wish you had radio communication.
Certainly did, Mike. That came along much longer after I quit racing, but it is a great safety factor. As you mentioned, the crew chief can tell the driver a lot of things that's going on that he doesn't know about. And it has added tremendously in that respect. And of course, I think that it's helped many teams to win races too. Not only the safety factor that is added into it. They not only have the crew chief in contact with the driver, they'll have another member or 2 also that's monitoring that radio just in case the crew chief should get sidelined his thoughts for just a moment. Somebody would be listening to what is going on. However, most of them don't talk that much while the driver's out there going around, but it's good to know that they have that added security.
And in fact, some teams will have a 3rd or 4th man on the radio, an eye in the sky, so to speak, stationed high up in the grandstand to view the track overall to warn driver and crew chief if something happens at one end of the speedway or the other.
And one other final measure of safety in the category of communications, the good old chalkboard and chalk. That's down there too.
Yeah, just in case the radio goes out, they've still got the pit boards to post intervals, tire changes, and other type of that information. Neil Bonnet in car number 21 is back in the lead. The Wood Brothers Thunderbird has dominated several races this season, but it's finished only 7th and won only 2. Richard Petty riding in the 2nd position, qualified 3rd in his STP Buick, and when he qualifies up front, he runs well. 9th place, Bill Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia, in car number 9, the Melgear machine, and in 10th, the Winston Cup champion, Dale Earnhardt, in car 3.
Champion from a year ago and the first $1 million winner at under the age of 30 in the history of automobile racing, Dale Earnhardt. His winnings of last season, a record for the season of all time in Grand National stock car racing, pushed his 2-year, or at least 2 complete year total, over $1 million, the first time in the history that a racing driver under the age of 30 had ever accomplished that. Dale Earnhardt, he's had some ride problems this year, but things have settled down and things are all set for next year. He'll be with Bud Moore, replacing Benny Parsons in the number 15.
Earnhardt in car number 3, the Wrangler Gene Pontiac running back in the 10th position. A little disappointed that he has not won this season, but he has 8 top 5 finishes, and 16 of his 29 starts have finished in the top 10. Back up towards the front, Bobby Allison is now the 4th place car. He's moved around Joe Ruttman, and Allison is the Winston Cup point standing runner-up. Darrell Waltrip has gone a lap down. If you joined us late, they had a tire problem. Cut a tire after the last green flag restart, and Waltrip still the points leader, but he is 1 lap down. Meanwhile, Allison is up in the 4th position in car number 28, the Hardee's Buick.
Bobby Allison is perhaps America's most active racing driver. He makes every one of the races on the Grand National Trail and often runs 2 and 3 times on other days during the week on the short tracks from coast to coast.
At Atlanta International Raceway, trouble up in turns 3 and 4. Buddy Baker is one of 2 cars to spin. The cars have slid down off the apron.
I think it's Travis Tiller, Mike, the other one.
Baker scrambles away from the scene. It is indeed car number 46, Travis Tiller, that has come to a stop at the bottom of turns 3 and 4, and that plume of smoke from beneath the hood indicates the end of the day for the coal miner from Coburn. And for Baker, a foot to the floor driver, he was in a bad spot for that one.
Yeah, he really was, Mike, and that happens so often in Grand National stock car racing because you're covering about a football field a second, and if something happens in front of you, even if you see it in time, you approach the scene so quickly, often there is just no time to react.
121 laps, 184 miles have been completed of the 500 that will make up the Atlanta Journal race today. Just prior to the caution, Neil Bonnet, shown here in car number 21, is the leader. The Warner Hodgson-sponsored Wood Brothers Ford Thunderbird. Under this, the 4th caution of the day. Richard Petty riding in the 2nd position. In the 3rd spot, Joe Ruttman with, Harry Gant. In 4th, Bobby Allison. In 5th is Joe Ruttman. Kyle Petty running in the 6th spot. Darrell Waltrip has now dropped a lap down. It'll move Bill Elliott up to the 7th position. Tim Richmond riding in the 8th spot. 9th, Dale Earnhardt, and 10th, Terry Labonte. To take you a bit back in the field as Neil Bonnet comes on to pit road. In the 11th position is Joe Milliken. Buddy Baker was 12th at the time of that accident. In the 13th spot, Cale Yarborough, 14th, Rick Wilson, and 15th, Jeff Bodine. At the Neil Bonnet pit, Ned Jarrett.
They're changing the right side tires, Mike Joy. They also have the hood up, and the reason is Glenn Wood, the owner of this car, went under and made a slight chassis adjustment. That meant that he was shifting some weight from the right front wheel to the left rear wheel. Now they've gone around and are changing the left side tire. So a tremendous amount of service here on that Hodgson Ford number 21 this caution period. So now he's down and away. But we would not have thought that he needed a chassis adjustment the way that car was running. So watch out when that green flag drops.
Likewise, the Bobby Allison machine, Richard Petty, beat them both off of pit road and off into the number 1 corner. Ned Jarrett standing by on pit road as we're under the 4th caution of the day.
And Glenn Wood, who is a former driver himself, of course he owns Neil Bonnet is driving. Glenn, we covered your pit stop. You made some sort of an adjustment.
We did put 1 round of bite in it. It was a little bit loose at the last stop. We started out with a little push in it. It gradually got looser as the track got slippery. So with the stagger left we had to put on later, we figured we better do it now while we had a chance.
Now, when you say the stagger that's left, what does that mean?
Well, that means the difference in size of the right and the left side tire, and a lot of times you get them close to the same size, then it'll push.
Well, now, he was outrunning everybody out there most of the time the way it was. We thought that he was in just perfect.
Well, it was at that particular time, but what we had left in the pits to put on later wasn't.
Okay, so they're looking far ahead, Mike, so keep your eye on that number 21.
Morgan Shepherd, the rookie point leader, will not finish the Atlanta Journal 500. He's been pushed amidst that crowd back to the garage area. He and Ron Bouchard both losing a bit of ground in the rookie point battle today. The sole surviving rookie candidate is 3rd place rookie contender Tim Richmond in the Bob Rogers car, number 37. At Atlanta, up front is Harry Gant after this round of pit stops. Gant, the pole sitter in the Reynolds and Needham machine. In 2nd, Richard Petty. 3rd, Neil Bonnet. 4th, the Joe Ruttman car, and 5th, Bobby Allison, as we look over this huge infield crowd at Atlanta International Raceway as we are under this 4th caution of the afternoon.
And before the retirement of Shepherd, we still had 15 cars in the lead lap, included in order at the 120 lap mark, Kyle Petty, a very competitive 6th position. Joe Milliken running strong, held down the 7th spot. Tim Richmond, who Mike just alluded to a couple of seconds ago, the sole surviving member of that trio going after the Rookie of the Year honors.
Bill Elliott, who qualified so well here this week in the second row, was 9th. Dale Earnhardt was 10th. And 4 other cars on the lead lap: Cale Yarborough, Terry Labonte, Rick Wilson, and Buddy Baker.
Well, the rookies have not fared too well here today. Ron Bouchard's out of the race, and now Morgan Shepherd has the misfortune to be standing with Ned Jarrett.
Well, he was the leader of the point standings going into this. Of course, his closest competitor, Mike, as you mentioned, Ron Bouchard, is already out of it. Morgan, what went wrong with the Levi Garrett number 96?
Well, Ned, first of all, on that last restart, trash got in the carburetor or something, and the engine started popping and spitting and everything. I thought I was going to quit then. And then I just got the car back to running good and was moving back up. We had the chassis adjusted up pretty good, was really going through the corners, and then we come in and made another pit stop. I took off and went down pit road, and the oil pump froze up in the engine.
Well, it would have been a good opportunity for you to pick up on those rookie points today, especially after Ron Bouchard had gone out.
Well, I just hate that, we didn't get to finish. We could have made a good showing for Levi Garrett because the car was capable of running up front. I told him that I wasn't going to really push the car until about halfway through. And I'd wait till the track got slick because my car was handling good, and I felt like I could drive to the front. And, that's the way it goes, I reckon.
Mike, when he says the car was handling good, Morgan Shepherd is perhaps one of the best engineers in all of auto racing and knowing how to set an automobile up. He's proved that several times this year.
So far, 12 lead changes among 5 drivers. Darrell Waltrip, Neil Bonnet, Richard Petty, Joe Ruttman, and Harry Gant have led this race. The 4 cautions have slowed the average speed to 125 miles per hour. If you joined us late, Bonnet has pretty much dominated this race. It's fair to say, Larry Newber, he has led the most laps and the most times.
He has led the most laps and the most times, but the biggest lead that we've seen all day long was held by Richard Petty. But without a doubt, the two of them, Petty second in line on the outside row there and Bonnet third in line, have been the 2 superior cars in this field. There's Richard Petty starting right behind Harry Gant, who sat on the pole here this week at the Atlanta International Raceway.
Petty in 43, Gant on the front left side of your screen, car number 33. Harold Kinder drops the green flag, and we're back to racing. Keep an eye on car number 11, midpoint in the screen, Darrell Waltrip. He is 1 lap behind, and he's trying to get that lap back down at turn number 1, just behind the 2 leaders, Gant and Petty. A look back to Bonnet, the 3rd place car. There is Waltrip on the right side of your screen in Junior Johnson's Buick. The number 11 car is 1 lap down due to a pit stop as Richard Petty looks for the lead, turn 3.
Well, Petty goes down low where we have seen him run so many times today. That's a bit unusual for Richard. Well, for that matter, so does Harry Gant. They like to run high, but at this racetrack, particularly in the first half of the race, the fastest way is certainly down low. Now, you mentioned Darrell Waltrip. We have seen no moxie whatsoever from that race car during the running of the race. He's been on the same lap most of the day, running with the lead draft, but he has yet to stick the nose anywhere near the front. Can he do it now? It may be now or never for Darrell. We're approaching the halfway point in this race.
3 wide into turn 3. Neil Bonnet goes right to the bottom of the racetrack to take the lead from Harry Gant and Richard Petty. Here comes Ruttman, and he keeps it 3 wide midway through the 4th corner. Harry Gant in 33 has to get out of the throttle and drop back in line. Bold move to come toward the front. Unscheduled pit stop for Bill Elliott. You don't want to stop under green on this racetrack because it can mean a lost lap. And Elliott, the youngster who's been picked up with full sponsorship from Harry Melling and Melling Tool for next year, is on pit road. That's a tough break.
And he keeps coming on. Now Petty once again goes to the inside of Bonnet, but we've seen Bonnet there several times today. He's not about to let go. And look at Ruttman just pull up like a rocket ship coming from behind, trying to put the challenges on Neil Bonnet.
Ruttman, the blue and yellow number 2 automobile. J.D. Stacy Buick. Out of the Jim Stacy shops, purchased from Rod Osterman at mid-season. All of these cars are on fresh tires. And Ned Jarrett, I'm not surprised to see this jockeying around. It indicates these drivers kind of want to feel each other out and see how their cars are working right now. Up front, it's Petty. Here comes Bonnet battling back. You get a fresh set of tires, and sometimes the car will handle a little differently. Remember, the hood was up on Bonnet's 21 car in the pits, and Glenwood cranked in what he referred to as a round of bite. There is a bolt attached to each corner of the chassis, and by turning it 1 round, well, that's a round of bite. It puts a little more bite on the opposite corner of the car. So the handling setup on Bonnet's car with that one adjustment is substantially different from it was just prior to his pit stop, and it's got Bonnet the lead back.
We're looking at the leaders there, Bonnet into the number 2 car, Joe Ruttman, and there's a host of people right behind him, including the 4th place car of Harry Gant, the 5th place car of Bobby Allison and the 6th place car of the highest ranking and only surviving rookie of this race, Tim Richmond, in the Rogers Leasing number 37 Pontiac race car.
This could be quite a day for Tim Richmond. He has a chance to close what has been a big gap between himself and Morgan Shepherd and Ron Bouchard, who were only 10 points apart for the rookie point lead. If Richmond can stay there for the rest of the day, he'll cut his deficit in half with 1 race to go.
Richmond, again on your screen, you see him down the back straightaway, the 1980 Indianapolis 500-mile race Rookie of the Year. He appears to have made the complete transaction from an open-wheel race driver to a full-bodied stock car racer, and Richmond is really beginning to make a name for himself in the Southland.
A moment ago, Bill Elliott, the Dawsonville, Georgia driver, was on pit road for an unscheduled stop. Ned, what's the story?
The right front tire was cut on his car, Mike, which caused him to have to come in. They had a little bit of trouble getting the tire off and back on, so he now finds himself about a lap and a half behind the leaders. We should make note of the fact that Bill Elliott this week sold his entire racing operation to his sponsor, Harry Melly. So that now in the future, he's going to be able to go in a much better first-class manner. He has his hopes real high for 1982 that he can get into the winner's circle now that he has more money behind him.
Well, another major announcement that was made this week at Atlanta International Raceway by the Ford Motor Company put a smile on Neil Bonnet and Bill Elliott's face, and those of the other Ford drivers as well. The Ford teams have had trouble getting engine parts, and Ford has announced that they are back in racing. They're going to build some engine cylinder blocks and some cylinder heads for the Ford teams this year. And speaking of announcements, ESPN is pleased and proud to announce that this first live telecast of the Atlanta Journal 500 is the first in a series of live NASCAR races. You'll see the Richmond 400 in February, the Northwestern Banks 400 in April, and you'll see the world's fastest speedway, the Winston 500 at Talladega, Alabama in May. All live on ESPN, except in selected blackout areas immediately surrounding the speedway. So look forward to those Auto Racing 82 telecasts live on ESPN.
You know, as you look at Neil Bonnet up front and start talking about the Ford factory people being involved once again in automobile racing, you just can't help but go back to the 1963 through 1968 seasons when Ford cars dominated Grand National stock car racing with the likes of Fred Lorenzen, maybe the first king of the super speedways. Ned Jarrett, one of our pit commentators, had many of his 50 wins in Grand National competition behind the wheel of a Ford. And of course, Marvin Panch, another guy who dominated NASCAR stock car racing in the Ford race cars.
Right up front, Joe Ruttman wants the lead. The Jim Stacy's California driver in car number 2 gets held off again at the 3rd corner by Neil Bonnet, but this time Ruttman is going to make it work on the low side and slip up to take the high groove away from Bonnet. Bonnet has to wrestle with the 43 of Richard Petty now for 2nd spot as they lap by Buddy Arrington's slower machine. And having caught the leaders, Darrell Waltrip in car number 11, 1 lap down, but scrambling to try and get that lap back, get back on the same lap with Bobby Allison and the rest of the leaders.
You know, Mike, I think Ruttman may have caught a lot of people by surprise. He really came to the southeast part of the country as you look at D.K. Ulrich in the pits, and it looks like they're going to go underneath the bonnet of that race car and perhaps make either some chassis adjustments or maybe they've got a problem underneath the engine compartment. But at any rate, Ulrich losing valuable ground in the pit area. Back on the racetrack in regards to Ruttman, there he is right now leading this race. Richard Petty and Bonnet side by side for 2nd. Ruttman probably wasn't expected by most people. There you see the difference between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And here comes Darrell Waltrip moving to the inside of Neil Bonnet, and Petty is missing. Richard Petty is missing, at least from that pack of the first 3 or 4 cars. He is in there. Don't be concerned. There he is on the racetrack, now battling with Tim Richmond. So a lot of trading of paint and positions up front.
Richard Petty got caught in lap traffic. Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip had the groove, and Petty got caught there behind a slower car. He is not off the pace. He is still running along at race speed. Ned Jarrett is on pit road with that story.
Mike, as you mentioned, as he went into that turn, he went on the outside of that left car and got knocked all the way to the wall. I think a lesser experienced driver might be into the wall right now, but Richard Petty, with all the experience he has, was able to get her slowed down enough, get it back under control, even though he dropped several positions.
At 150 miles an hour, you need to plan your moves pretty far in advance, and he was unable to. As out of the corner, Petty is toward the tail end of that lead draft right now. Kyle Petty, moving up well, is the next car in line past the first 6. Kyle is in the 7th position. Among that 7-car lead draft is Waltrip, who is 1 lap down. Petty riding now in the 4th position. Ruttman the leader, but not for long. Here comes Bonnet.
Well, that was an unusual move. Ruttman just didn't get down to the bottom of the racetrack as soon as he should have, and he left the door wide open for Bonnet. You don't do that too many times with any Grand National stock car driver, particularly a front runner. That was easy pickings that time around for Neil Bonnet to lead this lap.
And no problem for Joe Ruttman to let Bonnet by. He can kind of draft and cool his heels. The important thing for them in that Waltrip in car number 11 has won the last 4 races in a row. Both of those drivers do not want to have to contend with him for the lead. It's important to both of them to keep Waltrip 1 lap down if they possibly can. Bonnet, car number 21, the Wood brothers. White, red, gold trimmed livery, so famous in NASCAR racing. David Pearson, A.J. Foyt, Roy Yarborough, Cale Yarborough have driven this car to victory on occasion. Pearson picked up most of his 100 wins behind the wheel of the Wood brothers car. Neil Bonnet, a former steam fitter from Hueytown, Alabama, and protege of Bobby and Donnie Allison. Now driving this car, Bobby gave Neil his start in NASCAR racing. And Bonnet, when David Pearson left the Wood brothers 2 years ago, stepped into what many feel is the first chair in stock car racing.
And Waltrip, who is running in 3rd place in line, has got to be thinking right now charge. If he's got anything, we've gone quite a number of laps under green flag. Now, it's of course impossible to predict the caution flag, but you start thinking if you're a driver, we've gone a number of laps without any cautions. Waltrip would probably like to get in front of that duo, because if he could do so, the caution flag comes out, he goes all the way around and makes up his lap.
Watching Neil Bonnet, the leader, in car 21, Joe Ruttman in car 2. 3rd place, number 28, Bobby Allison on the left side of your screen. 4th is Richard Petty in 43. 5th and having a super day is Tim Richmond, the red, white numeraled car number 37. And in 6th on the right side of your screen, the pole sitter for this race, Harry Gant in the Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham car, now riding in the 6th position. They are all effectively in the lead draft on the same straightaway.
Kyle Petty continues to run in 7th position, about a straightaway behind the first 6. There is Jeff Bodine, the graduate of the modified and sportsman ranks, who's been in the top 10 most of the day, and Bodine is now down below the yellow line and entering pit road, and it looks like it might be curtains for Jeff Bodine here today.
Let's check with Ned Jarrett.
Oh, really? He's lost his oil pressure. We're in Bodine's pits. He slowed as he came off of the 2nd turn. And Emmanuel Sabacus, the car owner, says that they lost the oil pressure on him. He's going to have to park him for the day.
Well, the 2 New England drivers, Jeff Bodine, who made his mark in New England, short track modified racing at places like Stafford and Thompson, Connecticut. Likewise, Ron Bouchard, and they're both out of the race. And that leaves it to the Southern and Western efforts. Neil Bonnet from Alabama, Joe Ruttman from California, head of the field.
Mike, Richard Petty is still on the pace, so to speak, but he has definitely slowed from what he was running a few laps ago. Petty was just passed by Tim Richmond, and he's not keeping up with Richmond, who's just gone by.
At 225 miles, Neil Bonnet the leader, Joe Ruttman 2nd. 3rd is Bobby Allison. 4th is Harry Gant, and we'll be back. At 140 laps, average speed, not a new record with 4 caution flags, 123 miles an hour. But under the green flag, they're racing at about 155 to 160 miles per hour. Coming into this race, the NASCAR Winston Cup point battle, the winner gets 175 points. Should Bobby Allison win this race, he could take the point lead from Darrell Waltrip. It drops back 5 points per position from the top 5 spots. Then it drops 3 points for a ways, then 2, and then 1 point back in the field for each position. There are, as we explained at the top of the show, 5 bonus points for leading at least a lap. Waltrip has done so, Allison has not. And there are another 5 points for leading the most laps.
And Mike, we really can't declare it firm at this point, but it would indicate that with about 30 cars still on the racetrack, Allison among them, it looks like Waltrip will not clinch the points championship here in Atlanta today.
The keys to this racetrack, horsepower and handling. And a major component of the handling equation in Atlanta is the tire story. Ned?
There was some.
Go back to Ned Jarrett in a moment as we watch Neil Bonnet leading the Joe Ruttman automobile. Bonnet in a Ford. Ruttman is in a Buick. There are also Chevrolets, Pontiacs, and a lone Dodge scattered throughout the 40-car starting field for the Atlanta Journal 500. The Wood brothers of Patrick County, Virginia, that built Neil Bonnet's car, synonymous with stock car racing. They are perhaps stock car racing's all-time leading car owners on the super speedways. Let's check in with Ned again on pit road.
Mike, you were talking about the tire situation. There was somewhat of a rationing of tires here today. Most of them used, in fact, all of them used the Goodyear tire, the Eagle tires. They were only assigned 5 sets of tires for each car. They're figure they're going to use more than that, and every time a car drops out, other teams will scramble to get the remaining tires they have. We mentioned a moment ago that Jeff Bodine had dropped out of the race, and immediately Dale Earnhardt's Wrangler crew came up and got 2 sets of tires. Kyle Petty's STP crew came up and got the balance of the tires that was in Bodine's pits.
Watching Harry Gant, right side of your screen, in car number 33 with the black bandit hat from Al Needham and Burt Reynolds, Smokey and the Bandit movies. They're the owners of that machine that Harry Gant drives. He works underneath Bobby Allison, and this will be for 3rd position.
Well, Gant has been relatively quiet for the last 50 or 60 laps, but continued simply to lurk in the shadows as he goes to the high side of Ulrich DK, whom we saw lose several laps in the pits earlier. Allison follows him through as Gant and Allison down the back straightaway. They are about 100 yards behind the cars leading this race, the cars of Bonnet and Joe Ruttman. Waltrip continues to race behind Bonnet and Ruttman, unable to get around. Darrell Waltrip with just not enough horsepower, or maybe it's a handling characteristic of the race car. He hasn't even made an attempt to get to the inside or the outside of Bonnet and Ruttman.
That's the 2nd pack of cars. Harry Gant is at the lead of that group. He finished 16th here a year ago. Has not had a great deal of success at this racetrack except for last spring, and that's a story we may touch on later, that Gant was driving for Jack Beebe in the car that Ron Bouchard wheeled today. Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham were at that race, and they said, we need him. So Gant switched over to the Mach 1 racing team, headed up by Travis Carter, and he has performed very, very well with 7 second-place finishes this year. He's still looking for that all-elusive first victory. The tire story that Ned Jarrett spoke of earlier, we noticed the Darrell Waltrip machine with some odd-colored wheels on it at one end after the last pit stop, and that is indeed why that car, like many of the others, have been robbing wheels, so to speak, from cars that drop out of the race in an effort to conserve the available tires.
Tim Richmond, there in that red-white numbered 37, just darted to the inside of Bobby Allison as they enter turn number 3. Here they come down the front stretch. That moved Richmond up into the number 5 position on the racetrack as Petty, whom we spied possibly slowing a little while ago, has gathered up some more speed, and Petty is back into a 5th place, and he has a little bit of distance between himself and that duo of cars, Tim Richmond in number 37 and Bobby Allison in number 28.
To set the field, 155 laps, 230 miles completed. Neil Bonnet the leader. Joe Ruttman is in the 2nd spot. Harry Gant posted as the 3rd place car. Richard Petty is 4th, and Tim Richmond is now the 5th place machine. Bobby Allison will be 6th. Kyle Petty is 7th. Dale Earnhardt, the 8th place car. 9th is Cale Yarborough, and 10th is Rick Wilson. Buddy Baker is in 11th. Terry Labonte is 12th. Joe Milliken is 13th. And the 14th place car, 1 lap behind Darrell Waltrip. The point leader is in the 14th position. Now, Bobby Allison has been chasing that point parade ever since September, when he lost the point lead to Darrell Waltrip. And Allison, the point standing runner-up. It's got to be tough being behind the 8 ball.
Well, Ned, I think the pressure has remained about the same all year long. We expected to be in a tough battle. We expected the other tough competitor that we'd have to contend with race in and race out would be Waltrip in the Junior Johnson car. And you know, I feel like our guys have done a heck of a job. The whole Rainier team, Waddell Wilson and all his guys have worked real hard. And, you know, we went through a little spell there where we just couldn't get things going, and they caught us and passed us, and we'd like to pass them back, but mostly we need to run good in this race and try to win it.
To win, yes, but the key here is to finish. That's how you pile up your Winston Cup points. And Bobby Allison runs in the 6th position behind Bonnet, Ruttman, Gant, Petty, and Richmond. We'll be back to the Atlanta Journal 500. In 2 laps, we'll be halfway in the Atlanta Journal 500. 40 laps ago, this car, Darrell Waltrip, in 14th position, had to make an unscheduled pit stop to change tires and lost a lap. Just a moment ago, he passed the 21 car, Neil Bonnet, the race leader, and that puts Waltrip back on the lead lap. Bonnet has dominated. He has now led over 90 laps in this event and has been up front for more than half of the race. He is the leader. Waltrip in 11 car, just ahead of him, is now back on the lead lap. The second place car, Joe Ruttman, having perhaps his best outing ever and definitely his best super speedway race in the Jim Stacy machine. In third, the pole sitter, handsome Harry Gant, riding in the third spot, up front and looking for his first Winston Cup win. Gant is third, and back to the fourth place car. There is Dave Marcus, who is 2 laps down. Marcus also had an unscheduled stop for tires. His number 71 machine is 2 laps behind. The fourth place car is Richard Petty in car number 43. Petty just coming into view, going through turn number 1, and fifth is rookie driver Tim Richmond. Waltrip is back on the lead lap, and that's got to be good news in the Junior Johnson pit.
Well, Mike, just as we're about to talk, he has lost that. He went back and left down, and Neil Bonnet got back around. And we're with Junior Johnson, Hall of Fame member, who owns the car number 11. Junior, is he having to punish the car more now than you anticipated or wanted to?
Yeah, we're running harder right now. We like to run this early in the race, but we got a tire down and got a lap down, so we got to try to get that lap back. So we got to punish the car a little more.
Junior, early in the race, we mentioned that you had a cracked windshield. Has that developed any further?
No, it's about like it was. It hasn't given any more problems. The only problem we've had is the car, the chassis needed a little adjustment. Getting it settled down where it would run, plus we've cut a tire down. That's where we stand right now.
So we'd have to assume that Walter's been running it just as hard as it'll possibly go right now.
No, I don't think so at this point. We don't get our lap back pretty soon. That's what we're going to have.
Okay, so they might even turn him loose a little bit further in a minute.
That man, Junior Johnson, a legend in his own right, the subject of Tom Wolfe's book, The Last American Hero, and movie of the same name, completed his driving career with 50 Winston Cup Grand National victories, tied with Ned Jarrett for 6th on the all-time list. And as you can see, the 21 car of Neil Bonnet has put Waltrip a lap down once again. And that's got to be important to Waltrip's, or rather Bonnet's race strategy. Waltrip, the winner of the last 4 events in a row, does not want to figure in Neil Bonnet's plans for the last 100 miles here.
No, he doesn't. He'd really like to shake him right now and sort of get back to his own race. But right now, Waltrip, in a sense, is kind of driving Neil Bonnet's race as long as Bonnet can stay in front of him, keep Waltrip from picking up that lap. Waltrip, it may not look to you on your screen like he's driving hard, but believe me, it's very hard to get something accomplished at this racetrack.
Here's the race for 7th and 8th spots. You may think you're seeing double, but that is Kyle Petty, Richard's son, a rookie candidate a year ago in car number 42. The team STP Buick, they're both prepared in the Petty Enterprise shops in Randleman, North Carolina. And young Kyle is battling with Cale Yarborough, the defending champion of this race and the winner of the spring race here in Atlanta in this MC Anderson Valvoline machine. And they're racing back at, I believe, 9th position.
And Kyle, of course, driving the number 42, the first legendary of all the legendary numbers in Grand National Stock Car Racing. This was the number that carried his granddaddy Lee to so many wins. And when Kyle came up to Grand National competition, logical progression would have had him driving number 44. But Terry Labonte had arrived about a year too soon, and Labonte had already latched onto the number 44, so the Petty team decided to go back to 42, the old original number of the Petty team.
They have been racing under green for some time now. Ned, about how long before we get into scheduled pit stops if we stay under green?
Mike, we're in Tim Richmond's pits, who just moved into the 4th position, moving around Richard Petty, and they say that they can go about 30 more laps. Now, on this racetrack, they can go anywhere from 65 to 70 laps on a tank of fuel. Now, the cars that are really set up good today don't seem to be having any tire problems, as we witnessed earlier on Dave Marcus's car. But the tire wear is not that much of a problem, but they will have to come in for gas at that time. So we're a little better than halfway through what they would call a normal pit stop.
Ned, this is a pretty special racetrack for you. Your first super speedway victory was on this track. And about how much mileage did you get out of a set of tires back in the early 60s?
Well, you know, back in those days, you could run sometimes as much as 300 or 400 miles. I remember that Jim Reed won the Southern 500 at Darlington. I think it was in 1959, and he did not change tires during the entire race. But now they concentrate more on making the tires so that they adhere to the track well, and the big thing that they're interested in is getting them so that they will go a full gas stop, which is usually 100 miles. They run a much softer rubber compound on the tires today than they did back then. Of course, they use the slick top tires now, where we were running credit tires back in those days, and those credit tires, let me say, did not stick to the track nearly as well as these slick tires.
Well, Neil Bonnet is sticking very, very well. He has led more than half of the Atlanta Journal 500 in the Wood Brothers Ford Thunderbird, car number 21, heading off into the number 1 corner. Right behind him, the man who has won 4 races in a row. Coming to Atlanta, Darrell Waltrip in car number 11, right side of your screen, is 1 lap behind the leader. If the caution flag were to come out right now, Waltrip could try to scoot around Bonnet and get back on the lead lap and come around and pick up the tail end of the field. However, Waltrip mired a lap down, got off there, got back on the lead lap, and then Bonnet put him a lap down again.
Battling for 5th as they have for about the last 20 or 30 laps at the two opposite ends of the spectrum of experience in NASCAR stock car racing. Young Tim Richmond, one of the rookies of 1981, and the all-time king of NASCAR Grand National Racing, Richard King. That's only fitting, though. You know that, Mike? Richard Petty, of course, the guy who has won 195 times. He's battling with the guy who hadn't really been close yet, although he's been in the top 5 with consistency in the last couple of months.
Tim Richmond in 37, Richard Petty driving the STP Buick, car number 43. The attrition rate is taking a heavy toll here at Atlanta International Raceway this afternoon. Ed Jarrett standing by with another driver who has the misfortune of being out of the race.
And it's Jeff Bodine, formerly from the state of New York, now making his home, as Larry mentioned earlier, in North Carolina. And talk about wins, Larry Newber. This fellow has racked up a bunch of them in the last few years, but not in Grand National competition. Had to park it here today. Jeff, what went wrong?
Well, the engine tightened up down the front straightaway, and looked under the hood, the dry sump belt, the oil belt, was off the engine. Apparently, the pump locked up and threw the belt off.
Jeff, you want very badly to make it in this Grand National division.
Yeah, I'm real disappointed. We're running pretty strong today. We lost a lap in the pits, but we're rookies at this thing, and we just got caught in the pits when we shouldn't have. But the car was running well. I think everyone can see that. We were down a little on horsepower, but like I say, we're rookies, we're learning. I'm going to try as hard as I can to get full time of this.
Well, he's a rookie in this type of racing. He's certainly no rookie in auto racing, because as we mentioned, he's won a lot of races in the past, and he'll win a bunch in the future too.
The number 21 Wood Brothers Ford on the left side of your screen has led 110 of the 170 laps. The average speed slowed by 4 caution flags. And Neil Bonnet is the class of the field thus far in the Atlanta Journal 500. The number 2, J.D. Stacy Buick of Joe Ruttman rides 2nd. Harry Gadd is 3rd. Mike Alexander is 4th. 5th is Richard Petty. And 6th is Bobby Allison. We'll be back to the Atlanta Journal 500. The class of the field at the Atlanta Journal 500, Neil Bonnet in car number 21, the Wood Brothers Ford. Prepared in a little garage up in Stewart, Virginia, in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. One of the most successful teams in all of stock car racing history. Bonnet leads Joe Ruttman in his first full season on the Winston Cup Tour. And sophomore driver Harry Gadd, with his 7 runner-up finishes this season, still looking for that elusive first victory. On an earlier pit stop, Neil Bonnet's team changed the suspension setup. On his Ford Thunderbird, jacked a little weight around by use of a jacking screw at the right front corner of the car. That has improved the handling on the Bonnet machine as Dale Earnhardt, the defending Winston Cup champ, comes on to pit road. The Fords don't get quite as good gas mileage as the Chevrolets, Buicks, Pontiacs, and Oldsmobiles, but this may be a scheduled pit stop for the Earnhardt team. We had expected to see the Wood Brothers car with Neil Bonnet among the first to pit. Crew Chief Doug Richard tapping the roof, pointing to the right rear of the car as they change those tires a bit more quickly than Larry and I did in the piece we showed you earlier.
And with a little bit more expertise, Mike. You know, if you're relatively new to Grand National Racing, you'll probably have noticed that we have not made mention of it. This car looks exactly like the second running, or at this point in the race, 4th place car of Joe Ruttman. Yeah, there's a reason for that, because Joe's car is the car and the team that Dale Earnhardt started the season out with. Earnhardt went to the Richard Childress team, took his sponsorship with him, but they remained the dark blue and yellow colors on the old car that Dale Earnhardt drove that Joe Ruttman is now competing in.
Earnhardt stopped not particularly quick, 23.4 seconds. He has really come up fast. He was Rookie of the Year in '79, Winston Cup champion in 1980. So the 81 season without a victory has been a disappointment for Dale Earnhardt, but he's off to a new ride next year with Bud Moore.
And Mike, he set a record last year for winnings in 1 year. $588,000, I believe, was the total. And that's a record that it does not look like Darrell Waltrip, despite all the wins that Waltrip has this year, is going to be able to beat. So Earnhardt will hold on to that title of most dollars won in a single NASCAR season.
Well, you're watching a battle right now that is perhaps as important to the season as it is to this race. Neil Bonnet in 21 is the race leader. If you joined us late, an early pit stop, an unscheduled stop for a flat tire, put Darrell Waltrip onto pit road and cost him a lap. Waltrip is in car number 11, the Junior Johnson Mountain Dew Buick. Waltrip, right behind the leader, desperately needs to get back on the lead lap in order to come around and challenge not only for the victory, but for the Winston Cup Points Championship. He leads Bobby Allison in the points, but is right now 1 lap down. So Bonnet the leader, Waltrip in 11, 1 lap behind as we watch Neil Bonnet hustle down the backstretch at Atlanta International Raceway.
He's coming in.
Neil Bonnet backs off the throttle. He is coming onto pit road. The Fords don't get the best gas mileage, so they will be among the first cars to pit as Bonnet hustles down the pit lane. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
Not surprising, Mike, that he would be one of the first of the front runners to come in. As you mentioned earlier, they don't get quite the gas mileage on the Ford to get on the General Motors product, but the Wood brothers are ready. They've landed some right side tires, filled it up with gas, but as he's pitted here, Richard Petty just went by on pit road, so he's coming in now also. The world's fastest pit crew working here. We have the stopwatch on him, and he's down on the way in 14 and 4/10 seconds.
14-4, an incredibly fast stop for 2 tires and gasoline. And the STP team is in both at the same time. Richard and Kyle Petty are both on pit road, and Petty's stop is slower. 16.7 seconds for Richard Petty for 2 right side tires and a tank of Union 76 racing gas. Kyle Petty still being serviced, and we want to remind you these are scheduled pit stops.
Scheduled under green flag, and of course the crucial point here is that if the teams that have remained out on the racetrack have an opportunity to pit under caution, their pit stops will be a lot more casual and leave a lot more margin for error. Not that there is often much error in a pit stop in a Grand National stock car race.
That will put Harry Gant in the lead. He was the 2nd place car. Gant is in 33. And it puts Darrell Waltrip back on the lead lap. Most importantly, here is Joe Ruttman, the California driver, the Stacy entry for his scheduled pit stop. Bobby Allison is also in. The red car of Tim Richmond, number 37, is on pit road. Back to Ned Jarrett.
Richmond was running in 3rd place as the Rogers Leasing number 37. His crew may not be quite as experienced as the Wood brothers. They haven't been together as long, so we have to watch on them too as they change the right side tires, filling up with gasoline, and he's away in 17 and 1/10 seconds, so not too bad.
Well, Joe Ruttman also 17.1 seconds, and we'll see when these cars are back on the track at speed what those slow pit stops do in relation to cars on the racetrack. Neil Bonnet is down the backstretch. He was among the first of the leaders to pit. Harry Gant has, trouble in the backstretch. Gant is loose and spins in the back straightaway. A 360-degree spin around once and twice, and the leader of the Atlanta Journal 500 is off in the grass on the back straightaway. The caution flag is out, and what a break for Neil Bonnet. Bonnet had gotten, or rather Darrell Waltrip had gotten back on the lead lap and will be on the lead lap. Gant fires and puts his Skoal Bandit Pontiac back onto the racetrack and around to pit road.
Well, Mike, there's a situation where one mistake, or what might have been a mistake, maybe something broke in the car, you never know, but whatever the case, the experience of one driver, Harry Gant there, you see him losing control as he comes out of turn number 2, has a dramatic effect on the entire field. It allowed Darrell Waltrip to make up a lead, or make up a lap rather. Waltrip now, while Gant is spinning, is making his way all the way around this racetrack to hook up on the tail end of the pack.
Looked as if Harry Gant, coming off at turn number 2, got up into what they call the marbles. Now these tires are very soft rubber, and as they rub that rubber off the tire, it's kind of like using a pencil eraser. Well, all of that eraser dust has to go somewhere, and it goes up to the top of the racetrack by the wind force generated by these 150-mile-an-hour cars. And if you get up there too high on the racetrack, as Gant had to do to go around a lapped car, it's a very slippery surface, and it's like driving on marbles. Hence the name, and hence Harry Gant going around twice, perhaps 3 times in the backstretch.
Well, the deck is going to be completely shuffled and reshuffled and shuffled again, and we won't have any idea who really is leading this race until after this caution flag is over, because just about the entire field has now returned to the pits for a second time.
Ned Jarrett standing by in the Junior Johnson pit as the Darrell Waltrip car is in for service.
Well, Waltrip didn't come in quite as early as some of the other cars, Mike, because he had to catch up to the field. Of course, he was running directly in front of the leaders, and as you mentioned, a real break for him. As Neil Bonnet had pitted, that left him in the lead lap. Now he's right back in the thick of this thing as they changed 4 tires on his car. We're waiting for Harry Gant, who also had to catch up to the pack to bring his car in. They plan to change 4 tires on it. They think they have some sheet metal on it, and they'll try to cut it away. So Waltrip is away now with that pit stop. Cale Yarborough came down pit road also during this particular lap of this caution flag. We'll be back in a moment with Harry Gant's stop.
Our thanks to Jackie Arute of the Mountain Dew team for that bit of ESPN identity on the back of the rear deck lid spoiler of Waltrip's car right above the Give Me a Dew logo. As they've picked up Mountain Dew sponsorship for this year, this is what they called the dream team at the start of the season. Darrell Waltrip, the brash young driver who'd won many Winston Cup races and had a perfectly sharp-looking career ahead of him, teamed up with Junior Johnson, perhaps the craftiest of the car builders and team managers, and indeed the second half of their season has been impressive statistically.
Mike, they have been super tough as Harry Gant pulls into the pits. Of course, a lot of examination going to take place on that car as it spun like a top down the backstretch.
Examining a close-up, Ned Jarrett.
They are changing the right side tire right now, looking at the left side tires. In fact, they already have the lugs loose on the left side as the jackman comes around. They take the left side tires off. They've looked at the sheet metal. They thought they had some sheet metal on the right side, but we can't see anything wrong with it. Now, one of the crew members is making a tremendous chassis adjustment. Boy, he really turned that bolt on the left rear quite a bit. Good pit stop with all of that work going on, so Gant is ready to go again. It looks like in good shape, Mike.
After this round of pit stops, Dale Earnhardt is the new leader. Bobby Allison is second, Kyle Petty is third, Neil Bonnet is fourth, and Joe Ruttman is fifth. Live from Atlanta International Raceway, we are under the caution for the 5th time this afternoon. Harry Gant was the leader and spun in the backstretch. An earnest conversation between the NASCAR official and Travis Carter, the crew chief on the Harry Gant car. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
The official had just come over and told Travis Carter, now we said a moment ago that the Wood brothers thought Harry Gant was a lap ahead, but now they've come over and said that he's a lap down. Of course, Travis Carter is arguing that point with them, and I guess it'll be resolved here before too long. Travis Carter now calling one of the other NASCAR officials back.
Well, Mike,
and they're holding Harry Gant up out at the start-finish line as this discussion between 2 of the NASCAR officials and team manager Travis Carter goes on here in the pits.
Now, the reason they're holding the Gant car, if indeed he did lose a lap under the caution, when he spun, then he gained one unfairly coming back onto the track ahead of the safety car. The scoring is done out of turn number 4, and there is an individual score for each car. So in order to put Gant in his proper position 1 lap behind, they must hold him up at the start-finish line and let the entire field pass and put him back in line. So Gant is not the leader. That honor belongs to young Kyle Petty, the 20-year-old from Randall, North Carolina, in his STP Buick. And Kyle becomes, I believe, the 6th leader today. They are putting the number 1 car, you see, of Buddy Baker, behind the number 90 car of Jody Ridley, and the 33 of Gant behind the number 90. So there's a look at the scoring stand where Earl Sappenfield is getting things squared away with his chief scorers to get the restart order. Harry Gant, the scorers have told us, is being put a lap back. But remember, as Ned said, the Wood brothers thought he picked up a lap. That was indeed the case. So Gant is being put back in his proper position. He will be on the lead lap when we get the restart.
Well, Mike, something else that really contributed to all of this is that most of the leaders were pitting at the very time that Harry Gant was spinning. And it really created a lot of confusion because a lot of the cars, or at least half of the leaders, were at reduced speed or sitting along pit road. And it really was difficult to assess the situation until timing and scoring went back and checked the official records and the official tapes.
So Harry Gant will be back at that tail end of the lead lap as he pulls up into position near the Dale Earnhardt car. Robert Black, the NASCAR official, down on the start-finish line, had to give Gant the bad news that they were moving him back in the field. Today's winner is guaranteed at least $21,550 plus point fund and contingency money for major manufacturers posted for use of their products. could boast the winner's purse to as much as $30,000 this afternoon. Second place, with contingencies, could be worth about $18,000. Third place driver gets $9,700 from the purse, plus an estimated $3,000 in contingency awards. Not bad for a Sunday afternoon drive.
And attendance here today over 47,000, about 47,500 people, and wherever the NASCAR Grand National stock cars travel, be it the Michigan International Speedway, up near Jackson, Michigan, Dover, Delaware, or here in the Deep South, the stands are always filled. The top money winners in the Atlanta International Raceway history here at the Atlanta International Speedway, just south of Atlanta, Georgia. Cale Yarborough, who was the winner of the last two events at this racetrack, has won over $332,000 in his career. Richard Petty, who is tied with Cale for the most career wins here at Atlanta, is second in money winnings with $255,000. Bobby Allison, who came into today hoping to gain some points on points leader Darrell Waltrip, ranks third with almost $226,000. Here are the 6th through 10th positions: Benny Parsons, Dave Marcus, Darrell Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt, Fred Lorenzen still hanging tough in there in the top 10, and Leroy Yarborough. The last two drivers who are stars of the past of Grand National competition.
Getting set for the restart, Kyle Petty is the leader at Atlanta International Raceway, the Atlanta Journal 500. That's the way they're being posted on the board. Harry Gant has got his position back in the field, back toward Darrell Waltrip's car, and Robert Black is still trying to get them into their proper restart order. We notice in the Wood Brothers pit, and now in the Petty pits, and that of Dale Earnhardt. Everybody's looking at the scorecards and trying to figure out who's on first, what's on second, and whether Abbott or Costello is riding third.
Well, Mike, what's important to those two people, that is probably the Kyle Petty crew, and of course, they might be the lead car in the race at this point.
Ned Jarrett is making his way to Travis Carter, Harry Gant's crew chief, and try to find out just exactly what the NASCAR officials appraised him of as far as moving Gant back in the field. Well, the head shaking up and down pit road is only due to the fact that those crew members are not in communication with NASCAR scoring, and they are probably questioning, did moving Harry Gant back put him in the lead lap or put him one lap behind? Now Earnhardt pulls up for a word with the safety car to see where he goes. But the word that we get from NASCAR is that Kyle Petty, in this car number 42, is the race leader.
Mike, it looks like, I can't tell if it's paint job or what, but it looks like somebody's been to the inside of Kyle Petty's race car. Looks like he's been a little too close to somebody else's tire.
A little bit of fender banging and contact there as we take a look at some of the crowd here at Atlanta International Raceway. They've had a chance to take a break here during this lengthy caution period. It came out on lap 187, 13 laps ago, when Gant, the leader at the time, spun on the backstretch. When he came out and back onto the racetrack and came around to his pit, he got out of the pit ahead of the safety car. And as Ned Jarrett told you, the Wood brothers thought he picked up a lap on the field because the safety car slowed down all the rest of the cars and Gant scooted away.
Now Earnhardt is coming into the pits. Earnhardt has been the guy first in line, and there was some question as to whether or not he was the race leader or essentially almost an entire lap down. His crew also has been consulting with NASCAR officials, and Dale is in to get the word now for himself.
Well, since we're still under caution, let's go to Ned Jarrett in the pits.
Travis, what did the NASCAR officials tell you?
Well, apparently they had some confusion in the scoring. I think what really happened, Harry got moving again, and all the other lead cars had pitted, and he retained the lead, and in so doing, when the other cars that had pitted on the green came back into the pits on the caution, I think he passed them while they were on the pit road and gained a lap on some of them.
So you feel that he should be a lap ahead, and that the lap that they've just taken away was not justified?
Absolutely. So we'll just have to wait and see how well we can run now, and maybe gain all the ground back we've lost.
Okay, that's Travis Carter, the team manager. He's been in discussion here with the NASCAR officials, and that's his version of what has happened.
Well, that's Travis Carter's version, but of course Gant passed those cars on the pit road under caution. That's not fair, and that's why he was put back and will be back. Kyle Petty in car number 42 is the leader. He's lined up next to the lapped car of Connie Saylor of Bluff City, Tennessee. Harry Gant was the leader when he spun to bring out this caution. And as you heard Travis Carter explain, when he came around and pitted, just after the caution flag dropped, he beat everybody off pit road, including the safety car. And in doing so, unfairly picked up a lap on the entire field by moving by those cars under the caution flag. So NASCAR brought the field all the way around, held Gant at the start-finish line, so he is now in his proper position, but he is on the lead lap. That's the way they're posted by timing and scoring, and we're set to go back under the green. Kyle Petty, the leader. Neil Bonnet in 21 is second. Third is Joe Ruttman. Fourth is surprising rookie run for Tim Richmond. And fifth, Bobby Allison, the Winston Cup point standing runner-up. Now, Darrell Waltrip on that caution flag was ahead of Gant, and he is back on the lead lap and racing for the lead.
Mike, as a matter of fact, we have 15 cars on the lead lap, 203 laps into this race. There is the battle for the #1 spot. Bonnet goes to the inside of Kyle Petty. They lead, as Mike mentioned, Joe Ruttman, Tim Richmond, Bobby Allison, Cale Yarborough, Richard Petty, Darrell Waltrip, Terry Labonte, Bill Elliott, Rick Wilson, Jody Ridley, Harry Gant, Joe Milliken, and Buddy Baker, all still on the same lap.
8 different leaders in this Atlanta Journal 500. Kyle Petty, the 8th driver to lead this race. In turn number 1, Neil Bonnet has the lead, and look at the shuffling midfield. You see Joe Ruttman in car number 2, and here's Cale Yarborough, the spring winner at Atlanta. He is up in the top 6 positions. Yarborough in car number 27 is 6th, tracking down Bobby Allison, the 5th place car in the Harry Ranier Hardee's Buick. 5th is Allison in 28. 6th is Yarborough in car 27. They're moving in on the 4th place car, number 37, Tim Richmond, the rookie driver that has had such a strong day here in Atlanta this afternoon.
Well, Mike, you know, some of the veteran drivers are very much aware of the fact that in a Grand National race, the only lap that really counts is the last one. And as I look at Allison and I look at Yarborough, look how far we are into the race and how relatively quiet they have been. You got to know, they know exactly where it's at in Grand National racing.
Tim Richmond looking for the 2nd spot on Kyle Petty. Richmond in car 37. Well, the last lap, of course, is important, but the most important lap in this race to Darrell Waltrip was the one where Harry Gant spun, and he was ahead of Gant before the caution came out, and Waltrip is back on the lead lap. If you joined us late, Waltrip had to make an unscheduled pit stop early for a flat tire and got 1 lap down. Now he's in position to challenge the leaders, and remember, Waltrip in Junior Johnson's number 11 car has won the last 4 races. Trouble on one of the Petty cars. Richard Petty has slowed out of turn number 2. He's moving very slowly down the back straightaway, and the sport's all-time leading winner is slowed, and so has Joe Ruttman. In car number 2, the California driver that had run in 2nd spot up to this caution flag. Both of those cars are making their way to pit road at very reduced speed. You're watching Richard Petty, perhaps falling out of the Journal 500. A 3rd car has entered the pit lane that looks like the DK Ulrich machine, number 99, has also coasted down the pit road. Ruttman is done. The number 2 car makes that hard left turn to the garage area. Here comes Petty at the top of your screen.
Ulrich is in. He's out of the race. Attrition all of a sudden strikes like lightning, and Petty also pulling behind pit wall. Richmond in a spin in turn 3 and 4. Tim Richmond down in the bottom of the racetrack.
Well, Richmond had that strong super drive. He's trying to get back onto the lane, and he just misses the end of the pit wall. But Tim Richmond will drop out of the top 10 spots. He is still on the lead lap and can come down the pit road and back into action. The way he's fishtailing, it looks like a left side tire is flat on that car. And he overshoots his pit and has to keep on going and come around. A tough break for Richmond.
Well, there he is, right in the middle of turns 3 and 4 when it began. No smoke from the tires or from the car until he got into about a 45-degree angle to the direction of flow. There he has it locked up to keep the car hopefully from sliding back up on the banking. He grabs a hold of the car down on the most slippery part of any racetrack, down in the grass, and does a good job of keeping the car from sliding back up onto the pavement.
This will be the 6th caution of the afternoon, and everyone is back on pit road. Here's Richmond coming around. Neil Bonnet, the leader, on pit road, along with Bobby Allison just shooting past, and Kyle Petty. And you're watching the world's fastest service station crew, the Wood brothers, giving Bonnet just fuel only to get out front, and Ned Jarrett just stopping to top off the tanks with 209 laps completed and 119 to go.
Mike Joy, Tim Richmond, and Darrell Waltrip almost collided on pit road.
Ned, I wonder, can Neil Bonnet go the distance from here, 119 laps?
No, I don't think there's any way that he can, Mike, but I think what they're trying to do is get themselves in position so they'd only have to make 1 more pit stop. He can only go about 60 to 65 laps in that Ford, so now he could, if he should go green the rest of the way, make it on just 1 more pit stop. We're in the garage area. Richard Petty has just rolled the STP Buick in. He's unbuckling his safety paraphernalia. Richard, what went wrong?
I think the bearings went out of it, Ned. I don't know. It started seasoning up, so I just cut it clean.
The car was running exceptionally strong for you today.
Well, it ran real good, and we got that run that next to the last pit stop. Had a bad set of tires. The car pushed real bad, but I think we had them changed. Once we changed the tires, we'd have been in good shape because we run good to begin with.
Well, here's a 7-time national champion, but he's out of it here today.
Tough break for Richard Petty. His son Kyle still running very much in the thick of things here.
Mike, you know, you mentioned about the changing of tires. Some of the crews running down, I guess Ned Jarrett developed that story for us. Some of the crews running down to teams that had already dropped out of the race to borrow their tires. I noticed that the wheels were painted yellow on the last set of wheels and tires that Richard Petty had on. Those were not the wheels and tires that they expected to be using during this race, so maybe they misjudged a little bit. As Richard pointed out, the car was pushing bad. He was not getting a good track through the line or through the turns. That's why he wasn't running as quickly before the last caution flag.
Well, Terry Labonte in car number 44, the Billy Hagan Stratograph entry. Labonte from Corpus Christi, Texas, one of 5 cars in this race with J.D. Stacy sponsorship on the flanks of the fenders. Labonte is the leader, and he is the 9th driver to lead this race. He's up front. Jody Ridley in car number 90, the Junie Donlevy owns Truxmore Sonny King Ford Honda. Thunderbird is the 2nd place car. He was the 1980 Rookie of the Year. And Labonte and Ridley, after this round of pit stops, run 1-2. Joe Milliken in car number 5, the Cliff Stewart Performance Connection Pontiac, is the 3rd place car. This is the 30th of 31 races. They go to Riverside, California, November 22nd to decide the championship. Then it's on to a new year and Speed Weeks, 1982 at Daytona International Speedway in February. Right now, we're back under green, and Labonte steps away from the field to open up a 4-car length advantage down at turn number 1. Labonte out front. Ridley is 2nd. Joe Milliken, the 3rd place car. Buddy Baker, recovering from a spin earlier in this race, is the 4th place machine, and Dale Earnhardt unofficially in the 5th position ahead of 6th place Neil Bonnet and 7th place Cale Yarborough.
Well, Labonte, driving one of the Buicks that have been so successful on the trail this year, has not won in the 1981 season. Last year, 1980, he became the youngest winner of all time with the Southern 500 when he won a very exciting finish in the final lap. There was some confusion among the leaders, and Labonte snuck through a bunch of spinning race cars and came on around, raced to the caution flag, and won the Southern 500. There have been 9 different winners in the current 1981 season, and the man who rides in 2nd right now, Jody Ridley, is among those 9 winners. He won once on the Monster Mile at Dover.
Well, the race is in the 2nd pack behind these leaders as Labonte and Ridley go for the lead. The quick cars, you see them trying to scramble up through the field. Earnhardt, the blue and yellow number 3 car, up the high side of the left side of your screen. Cale Yarborough in 27, the white car on the left side, wants a piece of the action. Yarborough in the high groove has Neil Bonnet, who has pretty much dominated this race, kind of pushing him along off there into the number 1 corner. Yarborough takes advantage of Connie Saylor's lapped car, number 4, and settles into the groove behind Dale Earnhardt. Just behind them is Bonnet, trying to regain the lead, which he has held for more than half of this race. Cale goes downstairs on Earnhardt to try and pick up a position as those cars contest with the leader.
Well, of course, the big story will be once Yarborough, that is indeed Yarborough, who breaks from that snarling pack of our previous leaders, the guys who have led most of this race, or Earnhardt, or Bonnet, or Waltrip, whoever breaks first, can they catch the high-flying Terry Labonte? And Labonte is showing us some speed for the first time today that we have not seen. He is unable to shake Joe Milliken, and right now they're performing pretty well up front. Not only performing well, but they're leading this race right now. There's Cale Yarborough, who officially on the charts will be running in 4th position, I believe, at this point, Mike, with Labonte continuing to lead out front. It's Yarborough in 4th, and in 5th position, Dale Earnhardt.
Have to check with NASCAR scoring to make sure that Yarborough's car is still on the lead lap after a short bit of confusion during the last caution period in which Harry Gant, still on the lead lap, was put back a few spots after he spun and came back through the pit road too early. So up front is Terry Labonte in car number 44, the Billy Hagan-owned J.D. Stacy sponsored Stratograph Buick. In 2nd, the Performance Connection Cliff Stewart Pontiac. Number 5, Joe Milliken, who replaced rookie contender Morgan Shepherd in this car at mid-season. And as you can see, we are just about 2/3 of the way through the Atlanta Journal 500 at Atlanta International Raceway in Hampton, Georgia. Tight battle up front. Ridley up on the high side. Cale Yarborough moving well on the right side of your screen on the low groove of the racetrack into turn number 1. Let's go to Ned Jarrett on pit road.
At almost the same instance that Richard Petty blew the engine on his car number 43, so did Joe Ruttman on the car number 2, the J.D. Stacy sponsored car, or I assume that's what happened. Was it the engine, Joe?
About the last 20 laps, I talked to Inman, and I told Dale, I says, it's slowing down coming off the corners, and it's didn't drop a cylinder, which is odd. There was some internal problem with the motor, maybe a cracked ring land or some lower end related problem, I feel.
You had it really going good today. You had to be thinking you had a good shot at winning this thing.
Well, you don't ever count your chickens until every race. No, I knew that we really dialed in, and before the race started, I told Dale that this is the best we'd ever had the car in a super speedway, so I knew we were going to be tough, but you have to run the distance to win the race. So, you know, that's the thing. You just got to run 500 miles to win.
Well, how true that is. Sorry to see you out of it.
Cale Yarborough in car number 27, the Valvoline Buick, racing Joe Milliken for second position. And Neil Bonnet coming up on the inside, looking to take third spot away from Milliken. Bonnet, the Wood Brothers car. Waltrip ducks to the inside in the Mountain Dew Buick, car number 11. And he will want a piece of the action. So Yarborough has gone to second and scoots out ahead of the Joe Milliken car, Cale Yarborough, the March race winner here at Atlanta and last year's winner of the Journal 500, has put his Buick now in the second spot.
Well, Cale now sets sail for Terry Labonte, who's about 5 or 6 car lengths ahead of Cale. And remember, earlier in the race, Cale said he didn't mind starting back that far. It's a long race, and well, his words are coming true. He's right up there among the leaders, although now he's getting the challenges from the downside or the starboard side, make that the port side, from Neil Bonnet.
Heave-ho as Bonnet gets into the first turn. It got a little bit loose. He went in that turn very low, underneath the line, separating the track from the apron. Bobbled just a bit, but not enough to scrub off any speed. Speaking of speed, we're way off the record pace, thanks to 6 caution flags already in this event. And coming up on the leader, Yarborough and Neil Bonnet moving fast. Yarborough, high side of the racetrack. Bonnet with the low groove takes that away, running for second spot behind leader Terry Labonte. Labonte in 44, young driver, 25, out of Corpus Christi, Texas. Grew up racing go-karts and short track stock cars in his native state, and then Billy Hagan out of Louisiana picked him up for his Grand National team. He is out ahead of these 2 cars, 27 and 21. Cale Yarborough on your left, Neil Bonnet on your right.
You know, Mike, I think the Labonte team, the number 44 car, Billy Hagan, I think they're the only car to crash on the highway this season. They had a crash en route to the Michigan International Speedway about mid-season. They were able to put the race car back together, though, and they did go up there and compete quite handsomely despite their problems en route.
Look at the battle for second. On the left, Neil Bonnet, and on the right, Cale Yarborough. Bonnet just muscled his way underneath Cale in the first turn, got underneath to take away the groove and the second spot. Bonnet has led more than half the laps in this race thus far. 9 different leaders in the Journal 500, and Bonnet wants the lead back. He's got it. Labonte just lets him go by at turn number 3. Wasn't too much he could do about it. Neil had the low groove, and his car was handling there. Labonte's was not, at least not at the same speed. Bonnet, Labonte, Yarborough, the front 3 across the start-finish line. 222 laps completed, 106 to go.
Mike, I'm sure it came as no surprise to young Terry either. He's been just behind the lead group of cars all day long. He's had a bird's eye view of what's been going on up front. He has seen how strong Neil Bonnet has been, and I'm sure that was something on his mind. He wants to hook up with Neil Bonnet. Maybe he can latch on to Neil Bonnet's star, or maybe it's a Comet in this case, and maybe he hopes that Bonnet can actually help him finish a little higher toward the front.
Labonte's nickname is the Iceman. He is just very cool, soft-spoken, and we have an engine letting go down the front straightaway, a lot of smoke. It is not an engine, but it is the Dale Earnhardt car, suddenly trailing smoke down the front straightaway. You do not get a caution, and the car continues, though it is beginning to drop just a bit off the pace and down to the track apron. Car number 3, Dale Earnhardt, appeared to let the engine loose out of turn number 4. He has shut down the car, and it will coast 1.5 miles from the speeds of 150 miles an hour around to the garage area, and it's another tough, short afternoon for the defending Winston Cup champion.
I think we may have seen an example of experience there also. Of course, there was a complete dashboard of controls that look right into the driver's eyes as they drive around this super speedway. And it appeared to me as though that Earnhardt saw something go wrong with the gauges. He immediately shut it off, as you called it, Mike Joy, and he may have prevented a lot of debris and probably some oil and water from being spread across this racetrack.
Well, it let go right in front of Harold Kinder's starter stand, and as he came by, there was no indication that there was any liquid on the racetrack. So sharp thinking by Dale Earnhardt, framed in the upper right. The Winston Cup champion is out of the Atlanta Journal 500 and coasts his Wrangler jeans machine back to the garage. Up front, Neil Bonnet, where he has been most of the day in the Wood Brothers Ford Thunderbird. The Wood Brothers name synonymous with Mercury until this season, when NASCAR downsized to the new 81 mid-size race cars like Pontiac Grand Prix, Buick Regals, Pontiac Le Mans and Ford Thunderbirds, the Mercury Cougar was not as aerodynamically suited to NASCAR racing as was the Ford Thunderbird, so Bonnet made the switch. Right behind him, the battle is on for second. At the right side of your screen, Terry Labonte and Cale Yarborough are going at it for the second spot.
Bonnet continues to lead this race, and for a lot of people, for a lot of teams, a season like Bonnet has had would have been a successful one, but they're not happy with just 2 wins.
Let's go to Ned Jarrett standing by with Earnhardt.
Well, Earnhardt has just coasted the Wrangler Jeans car number 3 into the pit area. He's talking with one of the NASCAR officials, something that he didn't like too well about what was going on. We're going to have to wait till that conversation is over before we can get a word with Dale to find out what really happened. Now one of his crew members, Richard Childers, has come in there, and well, let's see if we can hear what's going on. Okay, what they're talking about is during that last caution, Earnhardt was the car directly behind the pace car, and he was concerned. He didn't think that he should have been in that position. Dale, first, what happened to the car?
Well, the engine broke a rocker arm and dropped the valve one. I don't know. It was running real good, handling pretty good. We just didn't seem to have just as much as everybody else off the corner, but everywhere else we run with them, you know, as far as handling and everything else. Just one of those days, I reckon.
What was the discussion with the NASCAR official?
Well, at one caution, Neil, we had pitted, and Neil and everybody else had pitted, and Neil was coming up to lap me, but he hadn't lapped me yet, and the caution came out. Well, the caution car picked me up instead of Neil, and that would have put me a lap down, and they said that I was leading the race, but there's no way. And on the scorecard, that it was a lap down if they would have passed me then. So, you know, all I wanted was my lap back, or to go back to where I was supposed to go. I think they got it straightened out, or said they did. I don't know.
Because now it doesn't really make that much difference. That's right.
No, but you scrap for everything you can get anyway.
Okay, well, that's the nature of a race driver, Mike. Like he says, they're going to scrap for everything they can get.
Well, likable young Dale Earnhardt, the Winston Cup champion, coming up short here at the Atlanta Journal 500. Car number 1 is Buddy Baker, who recovered from an early spin in his Haas Ellington Uno Buick to now run in the 8th position, just ahead of 3rd generation star Kyle Petty in car number 42, a number made famous by his grandfather, winning the inaugural Daytona 500 in a photo finish in 1959 with another Petty blue automobile. That one a Plymouth, and it carried car number 42 as well. Racing's, stock car racing's first family, the Pettys. There's one to carry the banner. It's Kyle, and he is going for that 8th position against Buddy Baker down in turn number 1. This time didn't just quite have the horsepower, but he's got the handling, and he'll take 8th spot away from Baker. So Kyle Petty moves up to the 8th position in his STP Buick ahead of Buddy Baker, and let's set the field for you at 230 laps completed. Neil Bonnet's car number 21, the Wood Brothers, Warner Hodgson sponsored Ford, is the leader. Second is Terry Labonte. In 3rd, Cale Yarborough. 4th is Darrell Waltrip. 5th is Bobby Allison, and those 2 positions are the battle for the point lead. 6th, the pole sitter, Harry Gant. 7th is Jody Ridley. And you're now watching the 8th place car. Young Kyle Petty, 20 years old, out of Randleman, North Carolina, proprietor of Kyle Petty's Boot Barns, 2 locations to serve you, and also the sponsor of Buddy Arrington's automobile. He's just gone by the Buddy Baker car to run in the 8th spot.
Yeah, how many young people have an opportunity like that to have their own business at the age of 20? Some of the other people whom we have not had an opportunity to refer to, they have not been running near the top 10. Chuck Bound still in it, John Anderson, Slick Johnson, J.D. McDuffie, and Dale Coward.
Kyle Petty, up-and-coming young race driver, really doing the job. He was asked by Ned Jarrett if he considers himself a natural-born race driver.
I don't really know. I think there are natural-born race car drivers. I don't consider myself one, I don't think. Maybe Richard Petty was a natural-born race driver, or Lee Petty, or some of them, but it's the type of deal where experience makes a race driver. I mean, you know, no matter how you look at it, you can have a little bit of natural ability, but it's just like anything else. You got to nurture it along and teach it and do the whole bit. So, I mean, you know, as far as that goes, I might have had a little bit of talent, but as far as being a total race driver or a natural-born race driver, I don't think I am.
Well, Kyle was born with a silver steering wheel in his mouth, so to speak, and yes, there's another Petty on the way, Adam Kyler Petty. Not quite 1 year old, Kyle's young son. Here's your leader, Neil Bonnet, lapping around the 0 automobile of Delma Cowart. Bonnet in the Wood Brothers Warner Hodgson National Engineering Ford has thoroughly dominated the competition here today. When he hasn't had the lead, he's been scrapping for it or on his way back up through the pack. Looking at Harry Gant and Terry Labonte having their own battle. With 94 laps to go here at Atlanta, that is the 4th place race, and Labonte has just gone back into the 4th position.
Well, Gant thought he was in position to move to the inside of Labonte, but you saw the slower car of Buddy Arrington running it in its own racing groove down on the bottom of the track. Down where there are some little rills, you have to be a little more careful down on the bottom of turns 1 and 4. The banks here were man-made, and you just can't keep them absolutely perfect. It's a major engineering project, and you have to be very careful down on the bottom of the racetrack here at this racetrack, as well as any high bank speedway.
Chief starter Harold Kinder working that blue passing flag. That's an indication to slower cars to stay to the inside and let the leaders by, keep the outside groove free for the cars racing for the lead. And in this race for 4th place, 44 is Terry Labonte, 33 is Harry Gant. Gant started on the pole. Labonte started 12th, but that was 235 laps ago, or almost 400 miles.
You know, Mike, a lot of people have walked up to Harry Gant this year, particularly the last couple of months, and lamenting about his inability to win. But, you know, they've been having a good time. Harry says, it beats doing what I used to do. I used to make homes. I used to pound nails Monday through Friday, jump in the car Friday after work, and drive like a maniac to get to a racetrack. Now he's a full-time professional race driver, and he says, I'm having a good time.
Now he pounds that steering wheel. But Gant started on the pole, and he's scrambling his way back up through the field as we watch the leader in the Atlanta Journal 500, Neil Bonnet. Bonnet out front for the Wood Brothers, a position he has found himself in several times this season. During the middle of races, he had a couple of races that were just about in his hip pocket. One in particular in May, the Mason-Dixon 500 at Dover, Delaware. Bonnet had 3 laps on the field, and the engine let go with just 50 miles to go in the race. Cale Yarborough inherited the lead at that one, but with 20 miles to go, Cale's car blew up. Jody Ridley got his first Grand National victory, and as Ray Melton would say, it is never over until the checkered flag falls.
Neil did pluck one of the NASCAR plums this year, however. He won the Southern 500 back on the 7th of September. He was red hot, as a matter of fact, in September. His second of only his 2 wins of this season came later in the month of September on the 20th when he won the CRC Chemical 500. Bonnet with 2 wins. He'd certainly like to make it 3 here today, Mike. You know, as we've been watching this race, we have seen several people up front. We commented about an hour or so ago that Richard Petty had the biggest lead of the day that we had seen up to that point. But this car, or the number 21 car we were just looking at, I think they are the superior machine here at this racetrack this day.
Terry Labonte and Darrell Waltrip now the race for 5th position. Waltrip, after a pit stop that was not scheduled, got a lap down, made it up when Harry Gant spun and brought out the caution several laps ago. And now he is back contesting for one of the front 5 spots. In this case, the 5th position held by the 44 of Terry Labonte. Neil Bonnet's record, Bonnet the leader in 20 starts. They've only finished 7 races, but they finished all 7 in the top 10, 6 of those in the top 5 with 2 victories.
Well, Bonnet has 2 victories this year, and he's also in the top 10 among the active drivers for career wins. He ranks 9th among the active drivers. He has 9 victories to his career. Darrell Waltrip, whom you see going to the high side of Terry Labonte, of course, has had a tremendous season, and the wins he has had this year have jettisoned him up to 5th position among the active drivers with 39 career wins. Of course, Richard Petty ranks 1st. David Pearson, whom I guess is still an active race driver, has 105 career wins. He's ranked 2nd. Cale Yarborough is 3rd. He's still in it for victory here today. And Bobby Allison is 4th on that all-time wins list among the active race drivers.
Watching Neil Bonnet, the leader in the Atlanta Journal 500, in car number 21, red, white, and gold, Wood Brothers. Warner Hodgson sponsored Ford Thunderbird as he whistles down the front straightaway at 160 miles an hour. Here at Atlanta International Raceway in Hampton, Georgia, back into the first turn yet another time. 241 laps, that's about 365 miles have been completed. Of the 500 miles that will make up today's race, the next to last on the NASCAR Winston Cup Tour, looking at Harry Gant and Bobby Allison, who are racing in the 3rd and 4th position. Gant, the pole sitter, Allison looking for the lead in the Winston Cup point standings. 241 laps completed. We are live at Atlanta International Raceway in Hampton, Georgia. 242 laps, 367 miles have been completed. Neil Bonnet is the leader in the Wood Brothers Thunderbird. Cale Yarborough has moved up to the second position in the MC Anderson Buick. Bobby Allison, the Harry Ranier Buick, is third. Harry Gant, the Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham Pontiac, rides fourth. Darrell Waltrip in the Junior Johnson Buick is fifth. And the Billy Hagan Buick for Terry Labonte is in the sixth position with just 89 laps to run. Jody Ridley rides seventh. Kyle Petty is eighth. Bill Elliott is ninth. Buddy Baker holds down the 10th spot. 11th is rookie Tim Richmond. 12th, rookie driver Rick Wilson. And in the 13th position, Joe Milliken. All of those cars are on the lead lap. Cale Yarborough has made quite a move up toward the front of the field, now resting in sixth position. Ned Jarrett has made his way to the MC Anderson team pit.
Pete Peterson, who is new as the crew chief. He's been on this crew for quite a while, but this is only the second race that he's been the crew chief. Pete, we've watched Cale this afternoon. He sort of lulled around there for a while, didn't care too much about being in the top 10, but all of a sudden he's running stronger.
Well, now we were a little off gas-wise when we first started the race, and we've been working hard at it, and we've got him running pretty good now, and if things go our way, we'll win it.
You will win it, you think?
I believe we will.
Well, boy, that's confidence for you, and that's what it takes. The crew chief and the whole team has to have confidence as well as the driver.
Cale Yarborough running second behind Neil Bonnet. This is identical to the situation we discussed at Dover Downs, Delaware in May. Neil Bonnet had a 3-lap lead on the field, and he's leading right now, and the engine blew up with 50 miles to go. That's one of 4 races the Wood Brothers might have won this season, but came up short. And it was Cale Yarborough who inherited the lead on that occasion. With 20 laps to go, Cale's car blew up. Jody Ridley got his first Winston Cup victory. It is now Bonnet and Yarborough. That distance separates them, just the width of your TV screen, or 4 or 5 car lengths.
And Mike, the performance of both of these teams this year has also been very parallel. Both of them expected to win a lot more than what they have, and both of them would really like to cap off the eastern part of the NASCAR season with a victory here. And I think both of them came into today really feeling as though they were going to win. So two of the guys who expected to be right where they are right now, they're there.
Watching Bobby Allison of the Hardee's Buick trying to regain the point lead, which he could do with a strong finish here, coupled with a disappointment for Darrell Waltrip. Allison led the points through mid-season, through September rather. He had his biggest point lead in June, as we told you at the top of the show. Was 6th last year in the point parade, but Waltrip has come on like gangbusters and has won the last 4 races, looking for his 5th in a row today. Allison, one of several drivers trying to make sure that he won't get it. Bobby Allison's crew chief and engine builder Waddell Wilson is in the pits with Ned.
One of the best in the business too, Mike Joy. Waddell, is things going according to your plan? You're sitting there running in 4th place.
Going pretty good right now. We're around between 1 and 2, and we're trying to adjust the tires to try to, take care of the chassis. Through 3 and 4, the tire runs good.
What seems to be the difference in the turns?
Well, right in the middle there's, gets loose, and the tires seem to be, pretty hard. And some of the cars, 1 and 2 better than 3 and 4. It just depends on how they're set up.
So you would plan to make an adjustment then when you make a pit stop, is that right?
Right.
Okay, that's Waddell Wilson standing by, watching his car and just hoping that he can improve it a little bit.
Well, in the Deep South, some of the drivers' legends are actually bigger perhaps than they are, but certainly there are legends in stock car racing, and this guy, Bobby Allison, is one of the most legendary. He's had a very versatile career. He has done well in open cockpit cars, and in the International Race of Champions Series, a series that put together drivers from the Formula One circuit, drivers from the Indianapolis cars, and drivers from the stock cars. This guy was the champion 1 year, and it was something he really wanted to accomplish, not only for himself, but for the entire world of stock car racing. By golly, he did her.
22 of the original 40 starters are still in the field. You're watching Bobby Allison, who is currently posted in the 4th position. Wife Judy looking on from pit road in the Harry Ranier Waddell Wilson pits. Watching her husband trying to drive toward, in a 20-year career, it's almost unthinkable that Bobby Allison has never won the national driving title, but he is going for his first championship this year.
Allison or Waltrip for that matter, and certainly it's going to be one of the two of them, so we will have a new champ.
Let's take you back through the field as we look at Neil Bonnet in car number 21 on the left side of your screen. He's the leader in the Atlanta Journal 500. 22 of the 40 starters are running. And on the right side of your screen, that's the interval between the two leaders. About 5 car lengths separating Bonnet from Cale Yarborough. In third, the number 33 car at the top of your screen is Harry Gant, who was the pole sitter for this event, riding in third spot. Back in the 4th position, now being posted, is the Bobby Allison machine. In 5th is the Darrell Waltrip car. Back in the 6th spot would be Terry Labonte. In 7th is the Jody Ridley car. In 8th is young Kyle Petty. In 9th is Buddy Baker. 10th is Bill Elliott. 11th is rookie driver Tim Richmond. In 12th is Rick Wilson, and 13th is Joe Milliken. Now all those cars are on the lead lap. 1 lap down, 14th is Connie Saylor. 3 laps down, 15th is John Anderson, and 16th is the Chuck Bound automobile. 4 laps down, the 17th place car is Dick Brooks. And the rest of the field, more than 5 laps behind. 18th is Lake Speed, 19th, J.D. McDuffie. Del McCoward rides 20th, 21st is Buddy Arrington, and 22nd, last car running, is Tommy Gale.
And Harry Gant has moved up to the tailpipes of Cale Yarborough. Cale has not seen Harry that close for about 20 laps, but Harry has been sitting back there watching the number 21 and the number 27 cars, 2 numbers that have done quite well in the history of stock car racing. Kind of set the pace in this race, and Gant maybe is calming himself down, maybe trying to settle down everything after that hair-raising spin down the backstretch, and perhaps he feels as though he's in a position to move back toward the front again. Now remember, we expect one more round of pit stops, so this is not really the final dash for cash, if you will. There will be one more pit stop. It's important, of course, that all of the leaders perform well along with their crews when they come in for that pause.
Well, let's get the expert's viewpoint from Ned Jarrett, who was a twice Grand National champion in the 60s. Ned, at this point in the race, with 70 some odd laps to go, it looks like everybody is just kind of riding and waiting and seeing what will happen after they make the final pit stop, get the last chassis changes and last set of tires on, and then see just how well these cars will run.
Yes, Mike, they check each other out all during the race, and I think one thing that we'll see happen when they make that final pit stop, they're going to maybe put back on some tires they've had on earlier. We've heard several of the drivers say that they got a bad set of tires. Well, what that means is that they got a set of tires that didn't run as fast as another set because of the variation in sizes. Now, all of these tires are made in the same mold or the same size mold, but when they're cured and they pump them up, sometimes they come out different sizes, and it affects the handling characteristics of the car. So I think that we will see many of them put back on some tires that they ran earlier that ran awfully well for them, and that might be their ace in the hole. So they ride along at this point of the race knowing they can't run away from the field and just sort of sizing each other up.
Right now, Harry Gant in 33 sizing up Neil Bonnet at the south end of the speedway. Gant on the low side looking for the lead, didn't get it that time by. They're coming up on heavy race traffic. Gant will have to drop back in line. Ned, we've been under green for some time. If we stay green without a caution period, how long until the next round of scheduled pit stops?
Mike, it would not be too long, perhaps within the next 15 laps.
So Neil Bonnet has the Ford, and as we pointed out and has been proven earlier in this telecast, the Fords do not get as good gas mileage as the Chevrolets, Pontiacs, and Buicks. Gant has slowed up just a bit. Cale Yarborough tried to duck underneath. Nope, Gant back on the button as they lap by J.D. McDuffie. But there's the mark of a sharp driver, Larry, and Cale Yarborough. The minute Harry Gant lifted the throttle just a bit to work that lap car, Cale dropped right underneath to cover the spot just in case.
He sure did, Mike, and I think we saw an example there that even though these guys are held in great reverence as race drivers go, you just can't be perfect for 328 laps.
Harry Gant now in the second position ahead of Cale Yarborough. And second is a familiar place for Mr. Gant. He's been on the Winston Cup circuit for 2 years. He got his start with the Race Hill Farms team out of Connecticut, the Jack Beebe-owned Bob Johnson crewed team. Ron Bouchard is their current driver. And in his rookie season, Gant was second 3 times, including one race that he had in his hip pocket until the last 50 laps. This year, he's been second 7 times, and he's second again. We've had 23 lead changes among 8 drivers. The 6 caution flags have slowed the average speed way off the race record. Darrell Waltrip, Neil Bonnet, Richard Petty, Joe Ruttman, along with Kyle Petty, Terry Labonte, Dale Earnhardt, and Harry Gant have led this race. The 8 leaders. And here is Bill Elliott, Dawsonville, Georgia driver, who got 2 big lifts this week. First off, Ford Motor Company made the announcement that they would supply engine blocks and cast some new cylinder heads. Good news for all the Ford teams. But most importantly, as Ned Jarrett pointed out earlier, Elliott's team has been purchased by his sponsor, Melling Tool, the world's largest manufacturer of automotive engine oil pumps up in Jackson, Michigan, and they will sponsor and own the Elliott team, increase it by 1 race car for next year. Aha, on the move. Darrell Waltrip, the point standing leader, has ducked under Bobby Allison. That is not only for position on the racetrack, 4th position to be exact, but those are the 2 drivers in cars 11 and 28 contesting the Winston Cup point lead.
The last 3 races, they have finished just like that, with Waltrip 1 position ahead of Bobby. Of course, Darrell has won those races, but Bobby Allison again looking through the back window of the Dew Cruz car.
Well, 68 points behind. He must finish ahead of Waltrip here and in the season finale in the Winston Western 500, November 22nd at Riverside, California. That's the end of the chase for the national championship, and they'll pack up and go off to Speed Weeks in February in Daytona, Florida to start the new season on February 14th. 1 week after that, we'll be at Richmond to bring you the Richmond 400 live as part of a series of NASCAR Live Grand National races next year on ESPN. 21 is the leader, Neil Bonnet. Harry Gant has caught his draft as they come down the straightaway on the backstretch at Atlanta International Raceway on a perfect day for racing. 70 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, and tremendous competition all afternoon long. The front 3 right together. Bonnet in 21. Harry Gant in 33 and the 27 of Cale Yarborough, top of your screen. They're contesting the lead here in the Atlanta Journal 500 with just 66 laps to run.
Mike, you know, as we project toward next year and think about taking these NASCAR Grand National races to cities from coast to coast on our ESPN broadcast, a couple of minutes ago, we were talking about Bill Elliott, and we have some cars now in the
Here's
pit area.
trouble on the 7th place car, Jody Ridley. The defending Rookie of the Year is on pit road. Trouble on that car. They're changing right side tires. And Ned, this might be a scheduled pit stop. They've been under green for so long.
Yes, it would be, Mike. We've checked with several of the crews up and down pit road. Bobby Allison is scheduled to come in at about 6 or 7 more laps. Ridley is running the Ford. As we mentioned before, they don't get quite as good a gas mileage as the General Motors product, plus the fact that Ridley did not come back in and cap off as Neil Bonnet when we talked about that a little bit earlier. So they'll be able to go from 5 to 10 more laps before the rest of them be coming in.
Watching Harry Gant running in the 2nd spot. Cale Yarborough 3rd in car number 27. They lap by Rick Wilson, the 12th place machine, number 62, putting Wilson 1 lap down. Not yet a lot of activity in the Wood Brothers pit for Neil Bonnet's final stop. Bonnet's the leader. Harry Gant is 3rd. Cale Yarborough is 4th. Darrell Waltrip in the 5th spot, and then Bobby Allison at Atlanta. And the big question at this point, can Harry Gant improve on 2nd spot?
Well, I'll tell you, you got to figure the odds are in his favor, Mike. After all, he's been so close so very many times, and he certainly has proven the fact that the car is fast. He has come back from adversity today. He had that spin down the backstretch. It looks like he's right back up to the form he was at when the race began. Matter of fact, the form he's been at all week. He was the fastest on most of the practice days, and he was the fastest on the first day of qualifying. That's where it counts, and it qualified him for the pole. You put all those things into the hat, draw out a number, in my opinion, it comes up to number 33.
Well, as you heard earlier, a psychic that the Gant team consulted out in Hollywood said they would win a major race before year's end. And Harry Gant is trying to make that today. He'll have to beat Neil Bonnet, and that will be a tough order. When the Ford has been right, the Wood brothers have run up front. That's been the story of their season. Here is Terry Labonte. He is currently posted back in the 9th position, making his pit stop. He was the leader some 40 laps ago when we came back from the caution flag. Labonte will get right side tires on his J.D. Stacy Billy Hagan car. The tire man runs around to the opposite side, and they're having trouble at the right rear getting that tire on. Now all the lug nuts are tight, and Terry Labonte is away, but that will be a costly stop.
You know, Mike, here's a young man who's been very impressive in the first couple of years. He's been a Grand National driver, and he's a guy that I think we're going to see around a long time. He's got a little bit of humility, and I think that's also going to hold him in pretty good steam.
The Iceman, Terry Labonte, back up to speed in the Billy Hagan Stratagraph Racer with J.D. Stacy sponsorship. Neil Bonnet is the leader at the Atlanta Journal 500. Harry Gant is 2nd. 3rd is Cale Yarborough. 4th is Darrell Waltrip. In 5th, Bobby Allison. And 6th, young Kyle Petty. 63 laps to go. Watching Neil Bonnet in the Wood Brothers car, the leader. Neil Bonnet in the Wood Brothers Ford leads at Atlanta. Harry Gant, the pole sitter, continues to ride second. Cale Yarborough holding third, and those cars are just a couple of car lengths apart. Bonnet into turn number 1, about to lap by the Lake Speed automobile. Keeps it high on the racetrack. His speed, obeying the passing flag, stays low. Bonnet works his way by without incident. Most of the lap cars are pretty good about the traffic. Here comes Gant, and Bonnet will head for the pits. Harry Gant assumes the lead. This will be a scheduled pit stop as Neil Bonnet has slowed in turn number 3 and will come around to pit road. Ned Jarrett on his way to the Bonnet pits as the Wood Brothers, the world's fastest pit crew, get to show their stuff right now. Leonard Wood about to make the change. Here comes Bonnet down the pit road. The pit board is up to show him where to stop. Delano Wood goes out over the wall to the right side, jacks up the car. Leonard Wood changes the right front tire as the rest of this team of brothers, sons, and cousins from Patrick County, Virginia. The first of the 11-gallon dump cans is tossed over. The second going in. Let's go to Ned.
Well, Buddy Baker just made his pit stop too, and Bobby Allison scheduled to come in the next time around. Mike, and we'll be in his pit ready for that action. Bill Elliott is in the pits now. All of these scheduled pit stops, they should be able to go the rest of the way from here without another scheduled stop.
Good pit stop for the Wood Brothers, just a shade over 16 seconds. Neil Bonnet will surrender the lead to Harry Gant, as he did before the last time these cars made pit stops under green. The Fords not getting quite as good gas mileage as the Chevys, Buicks, and Pontiacs due to characteristics of their engine design. Bonnet came onto the racetrack behind Harry Gant and Cale Yarborough, the 2 leaders. However, both of those cars, and here's Gant, your leader, will have to make one more pit stop. So if we stay under green, they should all end up being on the lead lap together, and the difference in the lead will be the difference in the length of the pit stops.
As we watch Harry Gant, Mike, you know, you've commented a couple of times today calling the Wood Brothers crew the world's fastest pit crew. You know, they had a profound impact on the world of racing. I mean, the worldwide world of racing. Bobby Allison, another one of our leaders, running among the first 5 all day long, comes in for a pit stop. A hectic action down on pit road, but it is a routine pit stop. The Wood Brothers were hired by Team Lotus when Team Lotus first went to Indianapolis, because the Europeans, of course, up to that point, never had to worry about rapid pit stops. There you see Kyle Petty in the pit area. Kyle also on the lead lap. He runs in the top 10. He's been as high as 4th at one point today at racing speed. And since that appearance with the Wood Brothers, with Team Lotus at Indianapolis, they've even changed the face and the picture of pit stops in Formula One racing.
Well, the Wood Brothers brought high-speed, choreographed pit stops to NASCAR racing and to the world, as Larry just explained, and they are the masters at it. You're watching Bobby Allison, the NASCAR Winston Cup point standing runner-up, trying to regain that point lead from Darrell Waltrip. After today, just one race to go in the championship season. November 22nd at Riverside, California, the Winston Western 500. Harry Gant, the leader. Here at Atlanta, the Skoal Bandit Pontiac for Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham, still looking for their first victory. They've been second 7 times this year. Cale Yarborough rides second. He's the defending winner of this race, car number 27. And Neil Bonnet's coming up. Now, Bonnet is a lap down because he has made his pit stop. And Yarborough will peel off and go to pit road this time. Gant still must make one pit stop. That'll put everybody back in the lead lap together.
Mike, something also to remember is that as we look at Yarborough coming in for a pit, that once you first go back out on the racetrack after a stop, the tires should be a little cooler, you should be a little faster. There's Cale Yarborough, who expects to get back out on that racetrack.
Ned Jarrett's on the scene.
Another scheduled pit stop, which should be his last one. They changed the right side tires. One of the crew members is making a chassis adjustment in that right rear window. They did those, change the tires, filled it up with gas, made a chassis adjustment in 14 and 2/10 seconds.
And here comes Harry Gant. The leader is on pit road. Harry Gant. At Martinsville, Virginia in September, Gant made his last pit stop with 30 laps to go. Coming off pit road, he got a flat tire, and that race was taken away from him. Darrell Waltrip won it, but until that point, Gant had it in his hip pocket. Travis Carter and the crew over the wall, changing right side tires. A full tank of gas for Harry Gant. He'll be back underway.
Mike, and back out on the racetrack as Gant's getting ready to drag strip out. Cale Yarborough got back on the racetrack about 300 or 400 yards ahead of Neil Bonnet. So Yarborough leads this race as Gant exits the pits. Yarborough goes by, and Yarborough takes the lead.
Now we'll see where the difference in pit stops shows up on the racetrack. Here comes Bonnet in turn 1. Harry Gant is trying to get up to speed. Gant's pit stop almost as quick as Bonnet's. Bonnet laps by Tommy Gale, and Gant is up to racing speed. It will pin Bonnet in third position. Yarborough is the leader after this final round of green flag pit stops. Gant will ride second, and in third, Neil Bonnet, shown here in the Ford, has got some ground to make up. Rookie driver Tim Richmond, the 6th place car, is on pit road. He is the last of the leaders to make his pit stop. The Bob Rogers Auto Leasing team changing right side tires for Richmond and dumping in the Union 76 racing gas. Last scheduled stop, and right behind him, Waltrip is in. Waltrip will pit. He is the last car on the lead lap to make his stop. Tim Brewer, the Junior Johnson crew over the wall. And again, the litany is the same. Right side tires and a full tank of fuel, a wipe of the windshield and away.
Well, as we look at Waltrip, his adversary season-long, Bobby Allison, has already been in and out. Allison, incidentally, runs in 4th position, just about where he has been, a few hundred yards back from that leading trio. Darrell Waltrip back out in the pits. His final planned pit stop is now over, and he is set to joust. Now, for the remainder of this race, we have completed 278 of 328 laps.
The race is for the lead. It's Yarborough and Harry Gant at turn number 3. 50 laps, 75 miles left to go in the Atlanta Journal 500. This one's winding down to conclusion. The 27 car of Yarborough battling with Harry Gant after this round of pit stops, and they're coming up on Tim Richmond. Richmond is going to have to struggle to stay on the lead lap. That yellow stripe on the bumper of Richmond's number 37 car indicative of his rookie status. He's earning the right to pull those stripes off today. He's had a tremendous day in the number 37 car. He is running now in 6th position. Richmond is on the tail end of the lead lap, just ahead of Yarborough and Harry Gant, who battle for the lead.
Well, they run mirrors on Grand National stock cars, and right now Tim Richmond has a mirror full of one of the most successful drivers of all time, and certainly one of the fastest of the 1981 season. Remember, Richmond still feels as though he's in it for victory here today, and he's going to drive very hard to keep on the same lead lap with these drivers. A lot of things can happen in the final laps of a race, particularly if we have a long caution flag.
There is Tim Richmond, and right behind him, the 2 leaders, Yarborough and Gant, are nose to tail. The differential back to the 3rd place car, Neil Bonnet, who has dominated much of this race, is 2.6 seconds. There is Bonnet, the 3rd place car, 2.6 seconds behind. And as Bonnet comes around, we'll check the watch, see if he's been able to improve on that as the leaders try to tussle with Tim Richmond. If anything, Bonnet is losing a bit of ground. 2.9 seconds, the distance back to the 3rd place car, this time by.
Well, Mike, you figure that the 2 leaders are going to lose a little bit of time on the racetrack as Yarborough and Gant try to find some combination to unlock the door of getting around Tim Richmond. But as you pointed out, Bonnet seems to be frozen in space right now. Visually, as we look around the racetrack, he is not closing in on Yarborough and Gant. Now, of course, everybody has made their final adjustments. Sometimes you can out-engineer yourself. Sometimes driver and crew and corresponding over the 2-way radio will decide to make changes, and sometimes they're not always the right change. Right now, it looks like Yarborough and Gant are set for a trophy dash to victory. Bonnet still lurks in the shadows. He is about 200 or 300 yards behind. Bobby Allison is still in on the same lap as is Waltrip, but right now, neither of them a threat.
They're going to get Tim Richmond. Cale Yarborough works underneath Tim Richmond, trying to put the rookie contender 1 lap down. Harry Gant has wisely backed away from that battle just a bit. He'll let Yarborough open up the hole and then try to follow him through. And Cale has put Tim Richmond a lap down. Let's go to the pits and Ned Jarrett.
About the fact that the Fords don't get quite as good a gas mileage.
Trouble, Ned, up in turn 2.
I'm standing by with Leonard Wood, who is the next one. Okay, you got trouble.
Richmond has spun at turn 2, trying to stay on the lead lap. Tim Richmond has spun directly in front of Cale Yarborough, and perhaps Harry Gant's backing off to let Cale open up that hole was the right move. We are staying under green. No, the caution is out. The caution flag flies as out of turn 4 comes Yarborough. He wins the race to the finish line for the caution. And now there's a mad scramble on pit road, and you can bet the Wood brothers will stop because Neil Bonnet's car was not operating up to par the way he had dominated this race. And Ned Jarrett, it looks like they're going for tires for Neil Bonnet.
About what I was about
They are carrying tires for Neil Bonnet.
There you see Richmond. Actually, his troubles began way back as he
moved into the entrance of turn number 1. The car fishtailed 3 or 4 times. He tried to save it. As it was, the car got out of shape going up the banking. Tim was able to stay off of the wall, but he went into a very long, and boy, the slides take a long time too when you're sitting behind the wheel and in the driver's compartment in the cockpit. But Richmond kept it off of the outside wall. He brought it down to a halt in the bottom of the racetrack, but I guarantee you there's 4 tires that won't see the light of day again.
Here's Neil Bonnet. Ned Jarrett is right on the action in the Wood Brothers pit.
They're planning to change all 4 tires on that car, Mike. They got a little bit behind on their pit stop during the green flag because he ran out of gas. We've talked about the Fords using more gas than the General Motors product, and certainly we don't mean to imply that that is general as far as Ford cars as compared to General Motors cars. I talked with Leonard Wood, and we were about to interview him before this spin, and he said that the reason that they're always 4 tire changes, but the reason the Fords burn a little bit more gas is because of a box-type manifold that they have, which is a high-performance manifold, which is not used on the regular street car.
Harry Gadd has won the drag race down pit road, and you heard drowning out Ned Jarrett, the burnout Neil Bonnet did to get out of the pits, but it wasn't quick enough to beat Harry Gadd. So under the caution, with 285 laps completed, and this is the 7th caution of the afternoon, Harry Gadd will emerge as the leader once again. Watch Cale Yarborough coming back up to speed. Yarborough has not stopped. Now, he would be the leader. Yarborough coming around to make his pit stop and will pick up the tail end of the field. So Harry Gadd will be the leader. Neil Bonnet will be the 2nd place car, and Cale Yarborough showing up 3rd in the order as they come across and down into the 1st corner. We are under caution for Tim Richmond, who has spun up in turn number 1. Now that's the 2nd caution that Richmond has brought out today, the 2nd one in a row. Back on lap 207, he spun at the south end of the speedway. We're now 286 laps into the record book. They'll run a total of 328 here today, 42 laps, or just about 66 miles left to go in this Atlanta Journal 500. The number 4 car of Connie Saylor and the 13 of Dick Brooks are each several laps down. They are moving up toward the safety car so that they can make their pit stops this time by. But again, in 33 is the leader. Well, that was a very tense moment, Larry, up in turn number 1. Cale Yarborough and Harry Gant trying to lap Tim Richmond, and Richmond trying not to be lapped very, very hard, a little too hard.
Well, it was interesting. You had set up the fact that Harry Gant had sort of withdrawn a little bit from that battle, and maybe it was indeed a matter of discretion being the better part of valor. Young Tim Richmond, who was trying not only to hold his position, but keep up to speed. And I'll tell you, he got into a little bit of trouble as they entered turn number 1, and Yarborough, along with all the other fellow veteran competitors in NASCAR who were not that far behind, did a fine job of avoiding Richmond as he first skated right up to the high side of the racetrack, almost hit the outer retaining wall, and then came all the way back across the track down on the bottom of turn 2.
Here is Tim Richmond on pit road, and they're taking a 4-tire change. So the caution is out with Harry Gant leading the Atlanta Journal 500 over Neil Bonnet and Cale Yarborough. This 7th caution of the day as Tim Richmond comes back off pit road. And the indication from Robert Black, the NASCAR official, we are looking to go back to green next time by. Harold Kinder on the flag stand, Robert Black working the caution flag down at pit road.
Well, Mike, in addition to the top 3 drivers of Gant, Bonnet, and Yarborough, this puts all the heavies right directly across the line of scrimmage from one another. They're all in the same pack right now. We're going to go green flag at lap number 287 with Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip also on the lead lap.
Well, it'll be a shootout. What do you think, Ned? Harry Gant in the lead, Bonnet 2nd, Yarborough, Allison, and Waltrip.
Well, Mike, we made mention a moment ago about they'll give it their best shot on the last pit stop, put on whatever they feel is the best tires. Everybody has been in the pits, and they got the best thing that they have going for them right now. It's going to be a shootout. Who's going to come out in front? Time will tell. The green flag waves.
Green flag is on, and it is Gant to lead the charge of the Winston Cup Brigade down to turn number 1. Harry Gant with Neil Bonnet and Cale Yarborough off into turn number 1. The green flag back out at Atlanta International Raceway. 287 laps complete. Harry Gant took the restart in the lead. Neil Bonnet changed tires on his pit stop. They put on what they felt was their best set of tires, and it's working. Bonnet has closed right on the back bumper of Gant. As they come around this time by, it will be 40 laps 60 miles to go here at Atlanta in what has been a thrilling afternoon, and Bonnet is about to cause the fans to stay on their feet yet another time. He works the low side. Gant has the high side and holds him off this time. And Harry Gant retains the lead, a position from which he started this race, but a position he has been unable to finish in 2 years of Grand National competition.
Well, 40 laps to go. We see Bonnet once again jousting, this time on the inside of Gant. It takes a little more than a half a minute to go around this 1.522 mile racetrack. What that means is we got 20 minutes of war to go, and it's going to be a great race. The final 20 minutes or the final 40 laps. Harry Gant, all those second place finishes. There are people from coast to coast, including Hollywood, California, looking for this guy to win one.
Harry Gant, the leader, car number 33, the Burt Reynolds Hal Needham machine. In second, Neil Bonnet, the Wood Brothers Ford Thunderbird number 21. In third, Cale Yarborough in 27, and then the fourth place battle, and it's a hot one. It's the one for the national driving title. Darrell Waltrip in 11, the fourth place car in 28, the Hardee's Buick of Bobby Allison, and blown engine, it's Gant. It is Harry Gant. He will not win his first Winston Cup race today. It has gone up in smoke. Just 72 miles from the finish. What a heartbreaker. It's the 5th time this season that Gant has been in position to win a Winston Cup race, and something has gone wrong.
Mike, just incredible, and heartbreak is the only word. I don't think you can say it enough. At the same time, Tim Richmond's car appeared to be giving up the ghost also, as a lot of smoke was coming out from underneath the Rogers Leasing number 37 car.
There is no apparent oil or fluid on the racetrack, according to NASCAR Chief Starter Harold Kinder. We stay under the green flag, and it's the Ford of Neil Bonnet out front, and dejection again for Harry Gant, who coasts to the garage area. Third place in the Winston Cup National Driving Title points chase. Perhaps a winner here at Atlanta, but he goes to the garage area, and just ahead of him, rookie driver Tim Richmond, who ran in the top 5 most of the day. There is Gant making the hardest corner in racing, the sharp left turn back to the garage. At the head of the parade, make that Cale Yarborough in car number 27, the defending champion of this race. Shows the muscle of the MC Anderson Valvoline Buick. He's out front. Bonnet says, "Not for long, you're not," and tries to catch him. Cale slams the door in his face in turn 1.
Well, to the old line of NASCAR, Cale Yarborough, who now leads, and Bobby Allison, who currently runs 4th, going after 2 of the new wave. And here comes the new wave on the inside, and it's lapping ashore right now, at least in terms of Cale Yarborough. The new wave in the person of Neil Bonnet. Right behind Neil is the number 11 of Darrell Waltrip.
Important difference right here. Bonnet had the speed on the straightaway, but Yarborough had the handling going into the turn. Now Yarborough has Waltrip to draft with. Bonnet does not, so they go into turn 1. Just about dead even, and Yarborough has the handling. He's got a full car length of advantage in the corner. On the straightaway, Neil Bonnet can ease up, right up with Yarborough again. This time decides not to contest the lead to turn number 3. Bonnet dips to the inside. He's got the power at the end of the straightaway, but Yarborough has the handling. Ned Jarrett on pit road with what must be a very disappointed Harry Gant.
Can almost see a smile on his face, Mike, but it's not a smile because he's sitting here in the garage area. Harry, she just came to pieces on you all of a sudden.
Yeah, just broke a rod or crankshaft one. It just blowed out the bottom.
Had to be thinking win right there.
Yeah, the last time, that last stop was the best set of tires that we had, and I don't think it could have passed me back. I wasn't running it, you know, I was trying to let them get seated in, and the last lap I run, you know, I was getting my pattern going again. I think I would have pulled away, you know, if it got going again.
Well, it's tough to do it here this late in the race, I know, but there'll be another day.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's amazing, Mike, and how these fellows are able to smile after going through a difficult experience of that sort.
So Harry Gant will finish this race in the garage area. Cale Yarborough is in the lead in car number 27, the MC Anderson Buick. The Wood Brothers Ford of Neil Bonnet right behind him. Bonnet has the power, but it looks like Yarborough has the handles on the car and the ability to get through the corner a little better.
Mike, even though we've got grown men wrestling 3,700-pound full-bodied stock cars and speeds reaching 160 to 165 miles an hour, and that's the average speed, you know, it's still going to come down to almost a chess match. There really is strategy involved here, as obviously nobody has the Muhammad Ali knockout punch. Nobody has been able to decimate this field. Most of the cars running near the front, those who have survived up to this point, lap 296, rapidly approaching the 300 lap mark.
all seem to be reasonably well matched. They've got to be pretty well figured out as to what their best place on the racetrack is to make their moves, and where they position themselves, particularly during the last 10 laps, will be critical.
As they come by the start-finish line, 32 laps to go. Just about 48 miles to decide the winner of the Atlanta Journal 500, the next to last race in NASCAR Winston Cup competition for 1981. Cale Yarborough is the leader in car number 27, the MC Anderson Buick. Neil Bonnet rides second. The point leader and winner of the last 4 races on the tour, Darrell Waltrip, is third. Bobby Allison, who led the points till midseason, rides fourth. Last year's Rookie of the Year, Jody Ridley, is in the 5th spot, and Bill Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia, rides in the 6th position. Terry Labonte is 7th, Kyle Petty is 8th, and Buddy Baker is 9th.
It's kind of interesting. Allison has lost a little ground to the front-running trio of Waltrip in 3rd, Bonnet in 2nd, and Yarborough the leader. And Allison right now appears to be, if you can believe this, holding up Jody Ridley and Bill Elliott. Both of those guys who have had good seasons. They got to consider what's happened to them this year, positive and successful. And right now they're working on Bobby Allison for 4th.
Bonnet feinted to the outside. Cale Yarborough drifted up high, and Bonnet was right there on the bottom of the racetrack in car number 21 to contest the lead out of turn number 4. Off the corner, down the front straightaway, and Bonnet will not be helped by the fact that Waltrip in car 11 is lined up right on the bumper of Yarborough, helping him draft. Neil Bonnet on the low side. He's done most of his passing from the high side of the racetrack today, but he is staying right with Yarborough. 29 laps left to run. It's a Saturday night shootout, and Bonnet with the Ford. Looks like those two cars are welded together as they rustle off into turn number 3. Yarborough, he is handling, and look at him wrestle the wheel at the top of your screen. He likes to muscle and manhandle and just fight the wheel of that race car. Bonnet, by contrast, a little bit smoother in his own driving style. But that's 2 laps side by side in lap traffic. Cale will try to pin Neil down and can't do it. They go 3 wide around Tommy Gale of North Huntington, Pennsylvania, the Elmo Langley Ford. And it is still a side-by-side battle. The camera angle makes it look like these 3 now make it 3. In fact, Waltrip tried to stick his nose in there, and there just wasn't room. 4th place, Bobby Allison in car number 28, and 5th place, Jody Ridley in car number 90. But the race is right up front, and the front 5 are now all stacked up right in a punch together. When those 2 leaders run double file side by side, it allows everybody to close right up on the pack. And after 4 laps, it looks like precision driving, but they're going almost 160 miles an hour. You saw Yarborough at the top of your screen bobble just a bit out of turn 2, and he lost the lead. He loses 2nd spot to Waltrip, and here is Allison. What a shootout this is. Yarborough stuck now on the high side of the racetrack, and he can't make any time there.
Well, Bonnet continues to lead this pack of snarling Grand National contenders. Waltrip, who has kind of been holding back and almost quietly running in 4th position, all of a sudden flexes his biceps, and Waltrip moves into 2nd position. And what can Bobby Allison be thinking? For the last 3 races in a row, all Bobby Allison has seen, the last 20 or 30 laps of a race, is the tail section of the Mountain Dew number 11 race car.
We're back to single file running order. Bonnet is the leader. 2nd is Waltrip. 3rd is Cale Yarborough. 4th is Bobby Allison, and 5th is Jody Ridley. They're filling your screen right now as they come off the 4th corner of the 24-degree banking at Atlanta International Raceway. There are your front 5. Make that front 6 cars with Bill Elliott joining in, and any one of them could win the Journal 500. We are now just 25 laps from conclusion, and nobody's leaving. Here comes Allison.
Allison goes to the inside of Yarborough. Allison in the Hardy's car goes down to the basement on Cale Yarborough. He's trying to keep up with Waltrip. Remember, he very much would like to finish ahead of Darrell. Darrell, meanwhile, is trying to figure out, what am I going to do to get around this flying Ford Thunderbird of Neil Bonnet? Remember, we've commented many times, the car appears to be the strongest in terms of horsepower. They figure they don't want to have Bonnet in a position where he has a track to run on in the final lap. There's a possibility that 2 or 3 of these drivers might actually be planning strategy in their mind to work against Neil. They figure he's the quickest.
Well, one driver who had a very strong but short day was Tim Richmond, who put on quite a show for the fans, but brought out 2 cautions. The last one his undoing. He's with Ned Jarrett in the garage.
Went out simultaneously with Harry Gant. Tim, first, what went wrong with the car?
First of all, the spin down in turn 1, Cale and I went in there side by side, and he must have had a little push in the car because he came up and tapped me in the back end, turned me around. Then my starter wasn't working, and for some reason, I sat there for about 3 or 4 laps before they were able to get a wrecker out to me to get me push started. And then when Harry blew in the front straightaway, we was just coming off of 2 or coming off of 4, and I thought I hit Harry's oil, but my motor went silent just the same time that Harry's did, and that's the way it goes.
Well, Mike, it certainly hasn't been a good day for the threesome, the rookie threesome that was here vying for those points.
Well, Tim Richmond ran very well, but it's where you finish that counts in the point parade. So Morgan Shepherd will retain the rookie point lead. Ron Bouchard will be second, and Tim Richmond third in the Champion Spark Plug Rookie of the Year competition, going to the final race November 22nd at Riverside, California. In 21, Neil Bonnet. He's the leader of the Journal 500. In second, car number 11. That's Darrell Waltrip, the point standing leader. The pressure's got to be on. Waltrip trying to just do the best he can to win as many races as he can. He feels that's the way to run for the championship. You've seen as many as 6 cars in your picture as they come off at turn number 4, and that is the fight for the lead. All 6 of those cars in the outside lane on the left side of your screen are fighting for the win. The front 3, left to right, Bonnet, Waltrip, and Cale Yarborough. And directly behind them, with perhaps 10 car lengths of interval, the second 3, Bobby Allison, Jody Ridley, and Bill Elliott. You see now the 4th, 5th, and 6th place runners.
And interesting stories that Ridley and Elliott have been able to keep up and stay on the lead lap. Jody Ridley, of course, is the guy who made a name for himself running in the outlaw late model circuit. For quite a number of years, he was driving the only Falcon in late model racing, and it was a car that was valued at well over $50,000, probably as expensive as a lot of the NASCAR modifieds and sportsmen. And Ridley ran up and down the East Coast, occasionally venturing into the Midwest with the Falcon, the only flag bearer in those years for Ford in short track late model racing.
Well, one man that has to be pleased is Edsel B. Ford II of Ford Motor Company, the Grand Marshal for today's race. He's got a Thunderbird in the lead, a Thunderbird in 5th, and another one in 6th place. And between them, the 3 Buicks, Waltrip, Yarborough, and Allison, running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That blunt nose of the T-Bird on Neil Bonnet's cars slips through the air at over 150 miles an hour. Off into turn 1 yet another time. 19 laps to go. Just about 27 miles to decide the winner in the Atlanta Journal 500. It's from here to Atlanta to the checkered flag, as it were. Bonnet in the lead, Waltrip right with him in car 11, and the 27 of Cale Yarborough. Ned, nobody has made a move in the last 10 or so laps. Those 3 are just trying to get away from that second pack of 3 cars. Are they waiting for the finish? What do you think?
Mike, I believe that they are working together right now, trying to pull away from Bobby Allison and Jody Ridley. Because if they had 5 cars up there in those last 3 or 4 laps battling for the lead, anything could happen. Certainly there would be more danger of an accident or a spin, but also if you got caught in the wrong place, well, you could wind up 5th instead of 1st. So the farther away they can get right now, the better off they'll be, and just to have a shootout with those 3 cars. And I don't believe that Darrell Waltrip has really shown his hand yet at this point.
Well, we're getting down to what you might call the 2-minute warning as these 3 feel each other out. Bonnet, Waltrip, and Yarborough. Live from Atlanta International Raceway, 15 laps to go, 22 miles to decide the winner of the Journal 500. Neil Bonnet has led more than half of these laps, but he'll have to lead the last one. And the man to beat, car number 11, Darrell Waltrip, the point standing leader and winner of the last 4 races. In 3rd at the right side of your screen, the MC Anderson Valvoline Buick. That's Cale Yarborough, the defending champion of this race, who's come all the way from 21st starting spot. And at the top of your screen, the race for 4th position, just now going into turn 1 as we keep an eye on the leaders. Bobby Allison rides 4th. Jody Ridley is the 5th place car, and in 6th is the Bill Elliott machine. Also on the lead lap, Terry Labonte is 7th, Kyle Petty is 8th, and Buddy Baker is 9th. There's Allison in 4th. He has finished directly behind Waltrip the last few races in a row. And then Jody Ridley, last year's rookie point leader. Bobby Allison in the 4th spot. Ahead of Jody Ridley, they are running 4th and 5th. About a second and a half behind the lead trio. Neil Bonnet in 21. Darrell Waltrip in 11, and the 27 of Cale Yarborough, all 3 cars running just nose to tail in the back straightaway. Also on the lead lap, 7th place, Terry Labonte in car number 44. 8th place, the number 42 STP Buick of Kyle Petty. His dad's already out of the race. And the 9th place car was Buddy Baker. Back up to 4th position, the Bobby Allison machine, the Hardee's Buick.
Well, Bobby Allison leading the 4th, 5th, and 6th place squadron, so to speak. They are apparently not in it for victory. They're still about 20 to 25 car lengths behind the leading Bonnet, 2nd place running Waltrip, and the 3rd running Cale Yarborough. And now we begin to wonder, Mike, who's going to make the move? Where are they going to make it at? We have seen Bonnet is very strong, particularly on the straightaways here. You know, Yarborough has been handling well, particularly in the upper lanes around turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But what about Waltrip? As Ned Jarrett reported a couple of minutes ago, he really hasn't showed his hand. We don't know what he has or where it's at on the racetrack.
Let's take you back through the field. We've given you the top 9. Those are the cars on the lead lap. 1 lap behind, Joe Milliken is 10th, and Rick Wilson is 11th. In 12th, 3 laps down is Connie Saylor. 4 laps down, and 13th is Dick Brooks. 5 or more laps behind, Chuck Bound is 14th. 15th is Lake Speed. 16th, the John Anderson automobile. 17th is Buddy Arrington. Del McCoward is 18th. The 19th place car is James Hilton. And 20th, the last car running, the number 64 Ford of Tommy Gale.
318 laps down, just 10 laps to go now from the finish, and we have been in this formation. It's been status quo for about the last 10 or 15 laps. Neither Waltrip or Yarborough, who trailed the leader Bonnet, have showed anything at all in terms of what they might be thinking about as they look toward the last lap.
There's the 4th and 5th place cars. Bobby Allison in 28th, the 90 of Jody Ridley is 5th, and the number 9, the 6th place car of Bill Elliott. They likewise are gearing up for their own private battle for position as the laps wind down. On the backstretch, John Anderson falls off the pace and heads toward the garage area as we watch the 3 leaders. Now that time, Cale Yarborough in 27, the 3rd place car, got a little bit high up in the turn, perhaps to breathe the car a bit, get it out of the draft and get some fresh air through the grill and into the radiator. But other than that, these 3 cars have run nose to tail these last 20 laps. And Ned Jarrett should know he won his first super speedway race at this racetrack and has followed the circuit all season. Ned, if you're Darrell Waltrip, when do you make your move?
Mike, I believe that he'll try when they get down to about 5 laps to go and just see what he can do at that point. But I think that he'll make his absolute final move on the last lap.
Well, that last lap is just 8 laps away. Bonnet in car number 21, the Ford, leading the Buick of Darrell Waltrip, driving for legendary Junior Johnson. The Mountain Dew Buick in the 2nd spot, winner of the last 4 races, and the Winston Cup point leader. And in 3rd, the winner of the last 2 races at this speedway, the number 27 of Cale Yarborough. Now that 2nd pack of cars is not too far back as you see Waltrip way up high. His car working a little better, and perhaps Cale wants to see how that groove is in case he needs to use it on the last lap. The 2nd pack of cars is just 2 seconds behind the lead trio as they lap by Tommy Gale and the Elbow Langley Ford once again. So this outcome is certainly in doubt, not just among 3 cars, but among all 6.
Well, at Atlanta, you have to handle, and it's also a driver's track in many senses of the racing sense. You cannot simply out-horsepower somebody at this racetrack. It's not as long as the truly super speedways, if you will, those 2 miles and higher. This is one of those interesting racetracks that is certainly by no stretch of the imagination a short track, but it's a track where you not only have to be very fast, but you also have to be hooked up well in terms of chassis and suspension, and the driver has to be on top of the situation. Now Bonnet has got to be very careful as he goes around slower traffic. You could see that Bonnet lost a little bit of momentum, but fortunately for him, there was not room on the inside for Waltrip to make a move.
Neil Bonnet laps by the Connie Saylor machine and off into turn number 3. It'll be 5 laps to go. It is 5 laps to go, rather, coming off of turn number 4. Still the trio, Bonnet, Waltrip, Cale Yarborough. Crosses the start-finish stripe, and they get the indication of 4 to go. In this Atlanta Journal 500, we are 4 laps, 6 miles from the finish. And still, it remains Bonnet out front and Waltrip glued to his bumper. And Waltrip will have to make that move on Neil Bonnet with 1 eye on Bonnet and 1 eye in his rearview mirror. Just out of camera range is the number 27 of Cale Yarborough. only 2 car lengths behind Waltrip. So it's a 1-2-3 shootout. You'll see coming off the 4th corner, there's Waltrip, just barely into view at the top of your screen for a moment. But he is very much in the thick of things as far as this race outcome is concerned.
Well, they continue to run it better than 155 miles an hour, about 157.5 to be exact, at 38 seconds on the last lap. You figure they're not going to be, of course, be able to to race as fast as they do on qualifying, but at 38 seconds equates to about 157 miles an hour.
Well, it is down nail-biting time. It will be 2 laps to go this time by. Darrell Waltrip, Neil Bonnet, Cale Yarborough will see the 2 furled flags from starter Harold Kinder signal to the field. As they come by, they're looking for 2 to go. 4th, 5th, and 6th place cars. Allison, Ridley, and Elliott come by and off into turn number 1. As we check the count at lap 326, Bonnet in the backstretch.
Neil Bonnet, 2 wins this year. 2nd position, Darrell Waltrip, 12 wins this season. 3rd position, Cale Yarborough, also 2 wins.
Into the 3rd turn. It could be a lap to go. Harold Kinder takes a look at the field. Still holding a couple of finger sign to the rest of the field. Here come the leaders. Off of turn number 4, and Harold Kinder gives them a look and gives them 2 to go. Into turn number 1, here goes Waltrip. Waltrip into the corner, didn't get it this time.
Waltrip dropped down low. He took a look on the inside. Now he's watching how Bonnet responded. Bonnet moved up about a half a lane, and Waltrip back to the inside again, Mike Joy.
On the backstretch, it will be the white flag this time by. A lap and a half, 2.2 miles to the checkered flag, and Waltrip gets the lead. Darrell Waltrip, looking for his 5th consecutive victory, now owns the low groove on the racetrack as they come off the corner. Waltrip made his move, but was it a lap too soon?
The question is, did Bonnet let him go by, or did Waltrip beat him into the corner? Bonnet may still have something up his sleeve.
Neil Bonnet into turn 1, retakes the lead. The Ford is back out in front, and Bonnet from Hueytown, Alabama, looks to win his 3rd race of the season. There's time, though, for 1 more exchange at the south end of the speedway. Waltrip did it a lap ago. He's got 1 more shot. They lap by John Anderson, a blur at the bottom of your screen at 160 miles an hour. Here comes Yarborough. Yarborough, bottom of the racetrack. He's got Waltrip, and that will let Bonnet slip away. It'll be Bonnet out of turn 4 all the way to the checkered flag. Waltrip is 2nd by inches over Cale Yarborough. And the Ford of the Wood Brothers of Patrick County, Virginia, comes to victory lane, and standing in the Wood Brothers pit, Race Grand Marshal Edsel Ford II, and what a happy man he must be, as the Wood Brothers have solved the engine problems that plagued them early in the season and allowed them to finish only 7 races. It is Neil Bonnet from Hueytown, Alabama, that will drive to victory lane.
Well, Neil said that he felt he had the best car coming into the week here at Atlanta. And I got to say that he may have been the best driver, at least here today also. We saw Neil at the point longer than any other driver. He led more laps than anybody else here today. And in the final 3 laps, he had the right strategy combined with a very highly horse-powered race car, and he came home the victor. His 3rd win of the 1981 season.
Well, if watching this live telecast on ESPN, our first of NASCAR Winston Cup racing, there can no longer be any doubt in your mind that this is the most competitive auto racing in the world, as Bonnet comes out of turn 4 to a thunderous ovation to victory lane, beating Darrell Waltrip by a car length, who finished inches ahead of Cale Yarborough. And the chase for the championship will go to Riverside, California, Sunday, November 22nd, and the Winston Western 500 before gearing up for the new season and Speed Weeks 82 at Daytona International Speedway in February. And ESPN's commitment to NASCAR racing continues in 82. They'll start the season at Daytona, and 1 week later, we will be at Richmond Fairgrounds Speedway in Richmond, Virginia, to bring you all the action of the Richmond 400, again live on ESPN. Now that's a grin. Look at Neil Bonnet in victory lane.
Well, I'll tell you, they haven't won as many as we commented earlier as they thought they should have when the season began, and they've been working very hard the last month of the season. And it's also a crew that is already beginning to make their plans for 1982, like so many of them have. They've lined up their new sponsor. They're firm on that for the 1982 season. And matter of fact, they've had good luck since Warner Hodgkin joined the team.
There is an ageless question in NASCAR racing when the draft is a factor on these super speedways, and it is. Do you want to lead the last lap or be 2nd on the last lap? Maybe we can help get a better fix on that answer when Ned Jarrett has a word with Neil Bonnet there in victory lane. Ned?
Well, Neil, congratulations.
Ned, I tell you what, you know, the Wood brothers, Warner Hodgkin, this bunch just did one heck of a job today. Leonard Wood, Tommy Turner, Holman Moody,
the people at Goodyear. You know, I can't thank the people the way this car is run today.
You got a right rear tire flat here in Victory Lane.
Ned, I'm sitting here with a flat on the right rear. About the last 4 laps, it started going down. But we'd worked too hard all day long to lose a race. I figured we'd win it on the rim.
What were your thoughts when Darrell Waltrip went by you on the backstretch as you were coming around to get the white flag?
Well, I knew Darrell had been trying me right there, and I would have liked to swap positions with him, Ned. I'd have liked to have been second, but I was either going to be first or third with Cale back there. So I had to just, when Darrell went by, I had to just get it right back. I couldn't wait.
I'll tell you, that was two pretty tough characters out there to be running for a win.
Well, I tell you what we were dealing with there wasn't going to be somebody slipping and making mistakes. Whoever won that was going to have to earn it.
This seems to be an awfully good track for Ford cars. Why? What makes the difference that it runs better here than at some other tracks?
Ned, you know, just the torque combination with the engine right here at Dover and some of the racetracks really seem to thrive. The Ford seemed to thrive right there, and it showed us that all year. But I know you know yourself, you saw this car all year long capable of doing this, and we couldn't finish races. If we can get it finished, it seems like we can finish, we can win them.
Well, he's proven that here today because here he is in Victory Lane.
Neil Bonnet won the Southern 500 Labor Day at Darlington on the Lady in Black in the Grand Old Super Speedway, and he got revenge for his May defeat at Dover Downs, Delaware by winning the CRC Chemicals 500 there on September 20th. This, the 3rd victory of the season for the Wood brothers. It's only the 8th race that they've finished due to reliability problems that they think they now have solved. But of their 8 finishes, all 8 have been top 10 finishes, 7 of them have been top 5 finishes, and 3 of them have been victories. Behind Bonnet at the checkered flag, well, 1 car length back, Darrell Waltrip keeps the point lead and, in fact, extends it over Bobby Allison as we head to the season's final race. Inches back of Waltrip at the stripe, Cale Yarborough in 3rd. Bobby Allison, frustrated again, seeing Waltrip in front of him, finishes in the 4th spot. In 5th, Jody Ridley. In the 6th spot would be the Bill Elliott car. In 7th will be Terry Labonte, finishing 8th. Young Kyle Petty in the 9th spot. That'll be the Buddy Baker automobile, and 10th is Joe Milliken. Perhaps, Larry, the key to Bonnet's victory was when Yarborough pulled alongside Waltrip as they battled. Bonnet could just scoot away.
Well, Mike, I think what happened was that Cale realized that Darrell didn't have enough momentum, didn't have enough steam to catch Neil, and Cale was going for that 2nd place finish. It was the only move he could make.
Our thanks to Ned Jarrett, who covered pit road at Victory Lane for us this afternoon, and our congratulations to the Wood brothers and Neil Bonnet in winning the Atlanta Journal 500. Bonnet, the winner, his 3rd victory of the NASCAR season, 1 race left to go at Riverside, California, November 22nd to decide the Winston Cup champion. For Larry Newber, I'm Mike Joy. Goodbye from Atlanta International Raceway. The Atlanta Journal 500 has been brought to you by Datsun, who invites you to see all the exciting new 1982 Datsun cars and trucks at your Datsun dealer today. Neil Bonnet and the Wood brothers win the Atlanta Journal 500.